Can't believe Legi died.
I didn't die. Hello?
Oh, your mic's fixed. Wow.
Yeah, I had to restart PC, Windows update, the classic,
What a noob. Absolute noober. All right, well, does everyone have their drinks? Everyone taking their poops? Everyone ready? That's the spirit.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm not gonna talk to you about my poop.
All right, fair enough. Well, this is number, what is this? Where are we? 18. Number 18.
Wow.
We're legal. We're legal, boys. We're of legal age.
I mean, not in your country.
In some states.
Legal to enter the army.
Yeah. Yep. Alabama, we've been legal for a little bit, but we don't talk about Alabama. All right, 3.25. Settlers of the Kalguur.
Huge patch.
It's just it's like at first glance, because it was just also good to note, I guess this is where I'm all over the place. It's begun. They did something that I really appreciated this time, which was the live stream did not contain any Path of Exile 2 stuff. And I had the reason that's important to me, because I kind of just don't want to know about it, because I'd rather just be surprised, like when I see stuff versus being like drip fed, stuff years out. But also, can you imagine if this reveal had PoE2 stuff, how long it was already so long, and I feel like it would have maybe cut into them disgusting stuff. And this is like, the Q&A after this patch reveal was, for me, like the best I've ever seen and the most engaging. And I sat there the entire time and like wasn't just glazing over for 2 hours waiting for patch notes, because the Q&A was like almost 2 hours long. And a lot of it was just Ziggy was asking like more, like better questions than average, and then Mark just got to sit there and talk for 50 minutes on each individual topic in depth. And I thought that was so nice to hear, and like giving real player examples, like even though it doesn't affect us with the trade currency thing, being like, I had this experience recently because I was doing this and I was grinding maps. That's like, just refreshing to have that connection back to, I feel like, the pulse of the game.
Yeah.
You can tell he's playing the game.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark's a real gamer.
Yeah, he is him indeed.
Yep, and I like, I love the level of accountability where it's like, we tried this, thought it could be cool, it totally fucking sucked, never doing it again. And then it's like, next week we're going to try this, could be cool, who knows, we'll find out. And then just like trying stuff and like not being afraid to fail, because the repercussions for failure are so low. But, if it's great, it's super great. So like adding the mechanic to the Atlas tree,
like
not a great idea, but I'm glad we tried it.
One thing he said is he's not afraid to take risks, right? Even
Correct.
if it might backfire and not be great, and that's exactly what I want, at least.
Yeah.
I just want the game to change a lot, because we, at least as for us who have played the game for like thousands of hours, big changes are always great, even if they're maybe backfiring. Better than no changes, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely, like, players with our playtime, I think for the most part, will just pivot and mold to meet the content effectively, right? So if they do something that totally shakes the foundation of how we've been playing for 3 years, like, it's obviously a little bit like to get our sea legs might take a couple weeks, or like adapt to what's happening, but we'll just re-roll something else. We'll just play whatever build is suited best for the content. We'll do whatever we have to do to engage with all the content. Like, that's kind of the point of the game. It's we're reacting to them. It's like,
I'll say that as much as I absolutely despise Necropolis as a league, and like all the little things that didn't pan out the way they wanted, and the way we wanted them to happen, I'm still much more happy that Necropolis happened the way it did, that they actually tried stuff and added things to the game, because then first of all can iterate on that, right? And as you said, taking risks and changing the game is very important. And even for not so invested players like us, like people streaming the game,
it's just so refreshing.
It's still refreshing, yeah, exactly. Like, you just come in and it's like, oh, this game is completely different, and let's try it.
It just shows that the game is still alive, right? Because we had bit of a a period of where we felt like the game was on maintenance mode and people were afraid they would abandon the game for PoE2, but like they're clearly back and working on it, right?
Yeah.
So many things happening.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
Yeah, and I think this has also been proved in a different way. So like, there's a lot of mechanics of Necropolis that could be enveloped into the core game and much less impactful. Like, if they added the entire corpse crafting system, it would still feel as tedious and annoying storage-wise as it ever was. But if they just had all flames drop or something, or embers drop, like that might be a lower impact thing, and they could incorporate that. And they just showed that they're adopting that mentality because you have aspects of Kalandra being added to the game, right? But it's kind of just the juicy part that we wanted a little bit, which is just mirroring uniques or mirroring the rares, reflecting the values, that are just like pooping those items out versus kind of fiddling with the tile thing. So you don't have to deal with the downsides of that league mechanic and just the filtered upsides, but you only get to that by trying stuff in the first place. Like, if the idea is every league gets kind of reduced down to 10% of the best 10% of it, and then gets added in, and then you have the base game, which becomes this beautiful collage of all the best pieces of every league progressively over history. So, there's definitely stuff to take from Necropolis, and they probably will eventually. But like, you don't get to that 10% by not making the whole picture, and sometimes like that's just the cost, and that feels fine. Feels good. But yeah.
And now we get a mobile game league.
It's true. It does. There's like, it's kind of like when they added the Kyrix pass, which I still think is a cooked idea. But the second you say the word pass, that has that word in video games, has so much emotion and feeling behind it because it's tethered to the worst representation of that
sounds
thing.
Cash grab, right?
It does. Well, it's like you think of a battle pass, you're thinking of whatever worst battle pass you've experienced, and that's what your idea of it is. And to be fair, the Kyrix one is not good with the pop-ups in game and all that stuff, but that's another story for another time. The second you see in-game timers, something like little bit trips in your brain where it's like, this reminds me of a mobile game. This reminds me of like those games that I don't like, have to wait, like city builders, like mobile city builder type thing. But again, like there's enough of a pedigree in PoE that I trust that it's not going to really be that, and it's just like a way of them kind of doing some sort of gating or threshold for the mechanic, and that's fine. But there's like so many moving parts with not only the mechanic but with the base game this patch that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm definitely fully on board with you when it comes to like how this league mechanic like first comes out of out of the woodwork. Is like, it's a lot of mobile game stuff, but like as you said, like it doesn't really like touch the same like edge that this is negative. This is rather positive. It's not only just because it's PoE. It's mostly it's just well made. I think. And from
another thing is
the reveal.
I think historically, they do themselves a bit of a disservice in these reveals by kind of over-explaining things, and they make things sound a lot more complicated than they actually are, which is because it's just an info dump, right? So this happened, I feel like, a lot in Sentinel, and even even in Necropolis, where it's like, the intricate parts of the mechanic might be very min-maxed, and you might have to use spreadsheets, whatever, but the base gameplay loop is not that hard to digest. But when you looked at it like in Sentinel League, it's like there's the recombinators, and you have to have this circuit board and connecting the widgets, and it's like, it turns out you just do that once or twice and then that's done forever. You don't have to really fiddle with it. So I'm curious like how much of this Settlers of Kalguur actual mechanical, like the gameplay loop, is probably going to be pretty low maintenance and not feel cumbersome at all, and it might be a little bit of a learning curve, and then you're just kind of sending your dudes out and checking on your dudes as you're mapping.
Yeah.
But the way that they pitched it just seemed like it was way more, you're pulling levers and dials and you're looking at like the weight of the ships, and I think there's probably just going to be like a preset you just do where it's like, this is the best.
I think you have
route.
some decisions to make early on, like what to focus. Well, where do you build your resources first? Like, do you go for the farming or the shipping thing or like the crafting guy or whatever, and then eventually everything is maxed out and you just.
Well, that's what if it's going to be like think of like the Scourge board, right, or something like that, where it's. You had to progressively level it up, or even like the Sentinel one where you're unlocking it, and like there's decision making in the beginning,
meta progression
for like the first week, but then once you're maxed, it's kind of like all levers to max anyway, and full throttle forward. So,
But you still have to decide where to put your gold, right? Like you have like different places where you can send your ships, I think, for different rewards,
resources.
and then you can farm different things for different rewards, probably,
For
or
sure.
something. So,
but if that's the only decision you're really making on a regular basis, that can't be more than a couple seconds of like, all right, I want to farm, because you're going to have a preset for that farm type, is what I'm saying. So like, if like there's
yeah.
a specific way you manage your ships for currency farming versus fragment farming versus map farming versus unique farming, once you establish once the royal once the community establishes, oh, this is the best, ratio, 6-4 or whatever, and that's just what you're going to be doing. And that'll, I mean, this is kind of like the meme about people saying PoE Classic or WoW Classic, where it's like, if you relaunch these games now, it's not the difficulty of the mechanics, it's the gap in information we faced previously when it was like just coming up. So like, PoE gets solved so fast these days. Like I think it was day 3 or 4 that was like an optimal corpse graveyard, So like that sort of stuff, I'm sure will be solved.
I don't think there will
quick.
be much to solve, man. It's just it's a pretty simple mechanic this time around, I think. I mean, they specifically tried to make a simple one because the main complaint last time it was too complicated, too tedious. I think this one is going to be super cozy and very easy to understand.
I think the way they presented it made it look not simple. That's kind of what I was saying. It's like,
no, I think it's very complex. There's like 20 different layers to this mechanic or something, but everything seems super easy to understand. Well, there was like one screenshot that was kind of scaring me when there was like a worker list and there was like 29 out of 75 workers, something, and I'm like, oh my god, is there going to be a huge spreadsheet of workers that we have to manage? But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's hire workers and current workers, and then like I don't know if it's just like you just kind of spam by them and then they die and that's it.
20 out of 90.
Yeah, and also that's the other question is that going to be enough? Like, is that amount of room even enough room where you're gonna you'd be like, wow, I wish. Like, I don't know if anyone would itemize a worker, but it's just like one of those things where they have great track records for these sort of great ideas, but when it comes to League mechanic storage, it just seems like they always grossly underestimate how, like I wonder if resources cap like really early on if you're not using them or something like that. Because I do feel like storage has been a bit of a pitfall in their execution, especially coming off Necropolis. It was like severely brutal.
I don't think there are going to be like much things to store in this league mechanic. Like all the resources are kind of, I would say, I think like just stored as a number, that not as an item, right?
Right, so, but what if the cap of that number though is really low? That's what I'm saying. Like
maybe I don't think that would be
like
an issue. At least I don't think it's going to be the case.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about those kind of issues because we have Mark designing this time and he actually plays the game, so like he would know these issues, right? Not
to throw shade at every other developer, the history of this game, but
Chris, what was that?
Christopher.
Nah.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's like so many cool things they've added, and there's so many facets to the mechanic.
We want to go every aspect of the league because I can't even name them all because there's like so many different things you can do in this.
All right, well,
in this place,
if
right?
we go
like
in order of what they're showing, so you do the mining thing, which the only part
in-map encounters, right?
Yeah, that's the in-map encounters. You're getting resources to fund your town. There's like 3 or 4 common ones and then 1 rare one, and they have different encounters associated with them. The only, I would say, light red flag there is the one that they showed did have a channeling aspect like Crucible, and channeling felt bad in Crucible, so hopefully it doesn't feel bad here.
There's also one that buffs the entire map, right? Like most of them are just kill monsters in a circle, but one of them buffs the entire map. I'm a bit worried about that one.
He described it, so the way he described it, and again, I have faith that he's correct on this, is that it's not going to be something that you're going to want to clear the map first, or, to not clear the map, then buff the thing. It's not like it's Affliction where you're like, I don't want to kill mobs because I want to wisp them. It just seems like it's something that you find and then you do, but I don't know how that wouldn't be the case. Like, if there's a way to optimize that if it is rare and it's like, well, if I find it, I'm gonna not want to kill anything. I'm gonna want to find it.
Maybe it tends to spawn at the beginning of the map if it spawns.
Yeah, so if it's like the Wildwood, then there's no FOMO. But if it isn't, then it's gonna be like, I'm gonna want to if it's as juicy as they're describing, I should say, and it's like if I missed this or if I cleared the map and at the very end I'd feel bummed out, then I'm gonna want to check each resource in each map before I do it, and that would be like a pretty grating experience because I wouldn't really want to be doing that.
Nah,
But that's
probably fine,
yeah.
surely.
I'm not worried. It's fine.
Right,
Yeah,
so what's
usually
next?
we are very like skeptical about those things. Like I'm usually the person that's like, oh, this is gonna be shit. It's gonna be like bad. But this time around, I don't feel like
No, I
at
wouldn't go
all
that far.
about this mechanic.
I just think that the odds that with everything they're adding, something doesn't go wrong or under delivers is extremely unlikely. But the odds of that thing being fixed within a week is also very likely. Like there's so many moving parts to this that I'm sure something's not going to work. I'm sure something's going to be overtuned, undertuned. But it'll be fixed in a week. But to me, this is like that's like an inevitability with an average mechanic. This is just like there's so many things here. I can't imagine it all. I mean, if it is, that'll be the greatest feeling of all time. But and hopefully it's just a numerical issue and not like a like a bug, like as far as think of Heist where they forgot to toggle off player collision for the rogue harbor. It's like we couldn't reach the fucking stash for like 3 days. Like if it's something like that, that would be catastrophic, obviously. But yeah, I'm sure it's like it should be fine. If you, obviously you don't have to engage with the mechanic either if you didn't want if it was actually broken.
We talked about mechanic in maps, right? When you finish this like encounter in maps, don't you have to like assign a miner or something? Like
I think they could be any age. I don't think it matters how old they are.
You have to hire like an extractor.
Yeah,
right? And then they have some real time duration it takes until it's mined.
Yeah, probably. I don't want to get Doctor disrespected out here. To me, people catching L's,
Yeah, I didn't mean it in the.
You're fired.
In the Dr. D way.
Yeah, no diddy. No, you're right. Yeah, you have to assign a miner, and then they have like.
Do you think there's any reason to worry that we're gonna be mapping faster than the extraction goes? Like you do a map and then you find the ore, right? And it says like it takes 10 minutes to mine. But then you're running maps faster than 10 minutes at a time, right?
So you're saying if you close the instance, it'll whatever?
No, not that, but like maybe your workers are too slow for your mapping speed, right? If you're like a zoomer. I don't know if we have to worry about that. Probably
yeah, I wouldn't worry. Also, like...
Surely it's balanced nicely.
Yeah, they might just do it even if you leave, or like whatever. Like I think it just might be happening no matter... I think this mechanic seems like it's not... it's kind of the same thing with like sending the bots out. Like they're actually not running maps. They're running emulations of what like a map would have. So maybe it's a similar thing where it's like the front of the visuals is just kind of window dressing, and it's already done what it's already had to do in the back end. That's like a whole development question. I have no idea. But the trade route thing, I'm just like going down the list here. This is where you're looking at the different harbors and the whatnots, and this is where all the if you're like, I'll be doing this on launch day, definitely engaging with the mechanic every step of the way, and I'll just be sitting here trying to.
Yeah, hoping, I'm definitely gonna go hard on mechanic too. That looks so fun to.
Just gonna hope 1% of the information soaks into my fucking brain, because there's like shipments and crews and symbols, and then all this stuff, and then you get the runes, and the runes are used to add enchants that are just some of the most insane things we've seen in a long time. But
yeah, I wonder how much like. Agency you have then what loot you get. Like I hope we can like send it specifically for unique items or for tattoos or something, well, being able to target loot would be great.
I think we can, and it probably is going to be broken into categories, I imagine, because looking at the reward structure from the windows, there's definitely 3 distinct categories, at least like in a lot of the screenshots. It was like currency, div cards, fragments, uniques. That seemed to be the base categories. And it looks like the shipment symbols, they have different things, and I'm just literally looking at like micro symbols here, but that's probably the reward structure.
Yeah, I would expect that we can choose like, if we want, like as you said, currency, uniques, like the main reward, and then like what kind of like tribe or like what kind of trade route with which kind of faction you get, and then we get runes out of that, right? That's how I understand it, right? And the runes let you do those insane enchants, right?
Yeah, and what I'm really curious about is because we've seen the top end of the enchants, and they're like obviously like super bonkers, like just 80% more damage or returning proj or things like that, and that's like the top end. But what I'm more interested in is the low end of what runes, because even if it was a fifth of that power, like if you could just add on your weapon 20% gained as whatever, and that's like a common thing, that's like you just gained an extra link basically, like, you know, early on. That seems pretty strong.
Yeah, I hope that's the case actually, because like that was the thing that was missing in the current league, which is I mean, it was balanced around like actually making really good gear, but this time
Yeah,
around
bridging
we're
the
not gonna
gap.
get
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Get good gear, so
No
we might
free
just
power.
get, you know, actual free power right from the
Can't
from the
make a
mechanic.
5 T2 bow hour 2 of the game, unfortunately, in this league. Sad. Sad.
That's why I'm not
some of
playing
these
bow.
enchants we've seen were like absolutely bonkers, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Couple listed.
Yeah.
But the question is just how rare they're gonna be to get. Like, I'm a bit worried when you play a build that changes your weapon often. You can't really invest like the mega expensive
That's kind of what I was
enchants every
thinking.
time, right?
Yeah, it's like you're gonna, if it's just like all the lower ones are kind of not worth using or collide with like basic build archetypes, that'll be kind of a bummer because it reminds me a little bit of Crucible where it's like, well, I just don't want to even kind of do this mechanic until I could, you know,
Till you have your best
find
weapon,
like a
right?
big, yeah, do like a, and then now it'll be even more constrained for that process because if you're playing a weapon build or a build that relies on a weapon for like the damage, you're gonna want to wait to get like a 30 quality one probably, right? Because aren't those drop only now?
Yes.
So
I think so, yeah.
I'm gonna want to wait till I get a 30 quality Citadel bow, and then I could start crafting. You know, that's like that could be a lot
Just
of
kind of
waiting.
depends how really rare these runes are, right? If it takes a couple hours to get it, I'll just put it on the current weapon. But if it's like a once
for
per
sure.
league thing, then yeah, you're gonna wait for like the best
No,
weapon ever.
if it was like, I don't even know what an example is of a previous league mechanic. I mean, Crucible, I guess, is kind of a good one. You could spend a lot of time working on a Crucible tree and it just never.
A Crucible was such a pain. I'd rather just make a perfect bow first
Yeah.
and then do Crucible just once than having to do that shit twice.
Yeah.
But surely
Yeah.
the rune farming won't be that bad. It's kind of passive, right? You just send ships and it's just.
Well, and no, the
Passive
rune
income?
farming was it was breaking down items. Was that part of it?
I
So-
thought you get those runes by sending
You do,
ships
you
to
do
Kalguur
get, but
place.
they did specifically mention the thing, the station that breaks down items into runes, and they even went as far as to mention that there'll be specific runes for specific tiers of rarity. They said that during the live stream, they used the word tiers, which was fascinating because then when we get those Moreau hierarchies and those Beanos that are normally like a shit drop, if you could break them down for like a quote unquote T0 rune, that now has a lot of latent power in what would be a disappointing drop. So when you see a Bloodseeker, you don't cry anymore. You say, whoa, I could put a returning proj in my bow, you know? So if that's, because that's how they showed it in Reveal Chair with like busting down items.
Oh, interesting.
So if it's like that, that would be great. Because then it's like, wow, every T0 has, you know, that it does a little bit remind me of like, you know, like WoW big MMOs where it's like, oh, I get to farm a boss drop that isn't actually good, but I could disenchant it and then I can get like an enchant for like you're farming mats, which
My
is
chat's
fine.
saying you're wrong, Lighty. Yeah, the runes you get from ships apparently, and when you disenchant them, you get recombinator dust.
Oh,
use the
maybe that's what it
recombinator.
was then. And then
Oh yeah, this is what I thought as well. That you just get enchanting materials when you disenchant items,
Like
right?
you
And-
level up the
Got
forge
it,
like
got
the
it, got
Danik
it.
plays to disenchant more.
so maybe
right?
it was certain recombinator. Is it just recombinator dust as a one currency? Honestly, I could have been higher in that live stream.
You can
It's
use
50-50.
other stuff too, like either the stuff you loot in maps or gold or something.
I was so sure
Like
that
two
they were
things
breaking down
two
specific
requirements
uniques.
for recombinating.
Listen, man, I should be putting it home anyway. You know,
I mean,
I'm
it
senile.
kind of shows like how vast and how you know like advanced this mechanic is. Like there's so many like moving.
I
moving
watched
parts.
it twice too because I was like, it was just so much to soak in. But that makes sense. So okay, so then you use the breaking down stuff for recom. That was a thing I totally forgot about. Even the
They said
recombinator
the runes
thing.
can drop from bosses too. Like you can do Uber bosses or something for them.
Sure. I don't
Just
doubt it.
sending ships. That'd be kind of badass.
I have runes in my filter. I just double checked.
Or it's about the league bosses probably, like these pirates.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that we have some kind of new bosses with the league mechanic like associated with the actual temporary league, because it's been a while since we had a new boss that's maybe
Well,
even if those gonna be like small ones, but it's pretty cool that
From what I
some-
saw in the trailer, and again, it's just been proven that my brain is full of mush. It looked like it was basically Admiral Darnaw from Heist was one of them, and the other one I think was one of the Sanctum unique guys. It looked pretty similar to that. I think the bow guy looked like one of the Sanctum guys.
Are you talking about Friedrich?
I think so. If it's the Solarian bow guy.
Oh, not the pirate guy, the bandit guy, right?
Yeah.
Or the slave guy, slave.
Yeah, they look like the
Friedrich something.
So, obviously, if their mechanics are different, it's irrelevant. The real question is, I'm curious how difficult they're going to be compared to like I feel like King of the Mist was pretty good difficulty.
Good at scaling, right? Like you can find them pretty early and then a lower level and so on, so they're not going to have like one single difficulty. They're probably pretty varying.
Yeah. So I thought like King of the Mist was like a good difficulty for mechanic boss. Like kind of hard early on, had some mechanics and gimmicks, but then you just kind of blew him up when your build was like done, which I think is fine.
I mean, from what I understand, that those dudes will like interact with the league mechanic quite often, right? So they have to be dealt with by most of the players, right? So they're definitely not going to be hard, in my opinion.
What if they make them super hard?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of mandatory to kill, right? To progress the mechanic.
Yeah, I do. I just.
What are you gonna do in the town? There's like, you disenchant stuff, you send boats out, you delegate map running, you grow crops.
Fiddle. Yeah, just you're literally playing like. That's where it becomes a mobile game where it's like you're just looking for like the red notification dots and then like I'm just clicking the different things that are popping up.
I feel like you're going through the town, right? And then by the time you're done with your town cycle, the first thing is already done, and then you just read like the first two maps are already going to be run, and you're going to put in some new maps there, and it's just going to be maintenance.
Everything town stuff still requires gold, right? Or that didn't require gold. That required the. I thought something in the town required gold. If nothing requires gold, then yeah, what you're describing could happen, which is like early and mid-game mechanic could just be you cycling in your town in circles for like 10 minutes at a time.
I mean, I would say that you can just bulk delegate, I think. From what I see in the trailer, it's just you can like put a queue of maps, like every map gonna take like 5 minutes or something like that, or next thing gonna take like half an hour shipment and stuff like that, so we can
also they definitely specified this part. I'm sure I remembered, which was if you set your workers to do a specific task, when they finish that task, they'll just move on to another task that they're qualified for. So if you set all your mining people to mine or something, and they also are like tagged as mappers, they'll like go do a map, or like they'll go do a farming thing. Like they definitely won't just idle, I think is what they were saying. Is that they'll move on to a next process. So that'll alleviate some of the fiddling.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just doesn't really matter right now. We'll just see how it works.
Yeah, fuck it. We'll never talk about it again. That's fine.
No, I'm just there's not much reason to talk too much about this because like it's gonna be fine once we see how it works.
Are you gonna be
speculating right now, right?
The one thing that, not to speculate, Manny, but the one thing I liked when I saw it was the concept of feeding maps to your mapping bots, right? It sounded a little bit maybe wonky to do like with a map you've invested in because the fail rate's going to be high. But if you're like, after you finish progging through your basic Atlas stuff and you're running like corrupted 8 mod maps, most builds have like 10 to 20% of those maps that they can't run because of whatever mod. You could just take those maps and then feed them into the system now. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw it. Was like, wow, all those, no regen reflect maps that I didn't want to run or whatever, minus 90% aura stuff. I could just feed those into the mapper, and then I could now regain value out of that, even if it's a tenth of the value. It's the value I wouldn't have had regardless.
The problem is you guys are going to die pretty often then. Then that might you might consume them too fast, right?
Oh, he was Mark described the scenario of you put in a T17 and the guy dies to one mob, right? So it obviously there's going to be that with it where it's like if the map is truly that hard, your dude can't run it or whatever. But they don't have to run the whole map. They just have to get through a percentage of it. And if they die, they die. It depends on, I guess, how frequently our people are.
Dying, they might die faster than you can recruit them.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, the first thing that came to mind when I saw this is Guardian maps to me. Like, I'm just, instead of running my own Guardian maps rotations, I'm just going to feed them. Like, I'm going to scout them so they're going to be high success rate, hopefully, and just put them in there and pick up my one fragment. Just turn them into fragments.
Yeah.
And never run a boss map again.
The ultimate
Can
bot
we feed
farm.
them shaper fragments, please?
If we feed
Yeah,
him shaper
shaper
fragments, have him run
I'd love
shaper
to
and give
beat
us
the boss sets.
uber shaper fragments. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with mine. Like, there's no point to speculate. I think overall, this mechanic is very positive for me. I like, as much as I don't like mobile games, I would say this seems very fun. Like, just doing something on the side while mapping.
Yeah,
and,
I
like,
agree.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
pop
super
up.
looking
So-
forward to this league mechanic.
Exactly.
I wonder if this is gonna like fill the gap of base currency with this league mechanic. I think it probably will. That we potentially may have lost from back to basics being gone. Like all that, if you're doing that sort of tree system.
We'll see.
Yeah. Of the crafting techniques, the enchants, which ones like caught your eye?
Returning projectiles that you can
Yeah.
put on range weapons, apparently. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, that was pretty much that's most people's reaction was like, "Hello."
That's kind
Another
of
one
crazy.
was. Sorry, go ahead. Like, I already said one.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to say that, like on a lot of projectile builds, that is definitely, the 100% more damage. But like one that I really liked was the local elemental damage, like 100% more damage on the weapon itself. So
Yeah.
it's probably
Yep.
going to
I
be
was
less
gonna say
damage
that
than less than
It's so broken,
projectiles,
right?
But it's so crazy, right?
Yep.
Just doubles the AoE DPS of a weapon.
Yep.
So we're gonna have like a 2k AoE DPS bow and so on. Like, what the hell is that?
It is pretty nuts, yeah. I liked the triggering for socketed fire spells because that opens up like Mjolnir-esque Squire builds for, like any of those COC or cast when channeling builds or any of that sort of stuff. But like, you could use a fire thing now, which you previously couldn't before. And I just think that could be something cool. Not sure what fire spell I'd like to poop out, but you could use
Instead of
Definitely.
Squire built it.
There's also one more that is very notable in my opinion, which is the Hateforge one, the
Oh, yeah.
combination with the
Yeah.
Val skill. Like, I think we're gonna see some very, very good Hateforge builds this league.
Oh yeah.
I
What was the
think
wording
so.
on it exactly?
I think it's 100% soul game prevention or something like that. So you
Do
probably
you have
get
no
like
soul game prevention? Or what do you mean?
100%. I don't exactly know, don't remember, but I think it was like something in the ballpark of you would probably get like 2 or 3 more Val skills while in that regard. I don't exactly remember. So I just remember that that it had a really good interaction with actual Hateforge, right? So
Hmm.
My
Yeah.
chat's saying it's 100% reduced soul game prevention time. So we will have no prevention time at all.
Well, that'd
Unless
be
you have
yeah.
increased duration and you build somewhere.
That'd be
Just
like
always
old
instantly
Val
get
skills.
souls again.
Yeah.
So you can play it like 10 years ago, right? Where
Yeah,
you
Val Fireball,
Valspark and the
Valspark,
Valspark builds up new souls right, for the next Valspark and you just chain it. That'd be awesome.
That'd
I
be
would love to play some Val Fireball or
fun
something.
goal. Yeah.
like volcanic fissure as well. That would be fun.
Oh yeah, the snaking one. That one's pretty cool. Or they upside the
I mean,
Val
I'm-
one. Yeah.
Or just the Val one, yeah, with like new slams and such. That would be really fun.
That existed in Crucible League actually. The volcanic fissure one, because there was the Crucible roll on helms and weapons that reduced it by 40%, and if you had all 3, you can get 0%, and you would just spam.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Val Molten Shell Scold's Bridal. Oh man, the dream. I love that build. The currency trade market seems good.
Yeah, I'm playing Trade League next week.
Are you?
I'm using this. Well, I'm gonna start at least. I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna go SSF after a while, but
By next league, you mean
I'll definitely try it out a
PoE
bit.
2?
no, in this league next week.
Oh, you're starting a trade this league.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll try out the currency exchange next
okay.
week.
Exciting. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know
I mean, I
what
guess
to say here. Just
If you're gonna main SSF, you're never gonna actually use this, right?
no,
Kinda
never.
pointless for you.
Yeah. But so gold was introduced and it has the currency exchange. That's one thing, but it has something very valuable for us, which is the black market. That seemed very cool because what they were
I'm
showing.
pretty skeptical about this.
Well, they definitely wouldn't ever show the best example of using it in the reveal trailer, right? So
I like that the guy has 4 million gold there. That's pretty optimistic, right?
But that guy in the video, they pulled like a near perfect item out of the vendor like 2 or 3 times in a row. So we'll see. If it is like smart, they're saying it was smart rolled or whatever.
Just like that video where they rolled
the Trial Master fragment back to
Trial
back.
Master fragment back to back on the Valside area. Yeah.
Only to never be seen ever.
1 in 10,000 or something.
Yeah. I mean, also like the builds that they use in these screenshots are so funny. So like, they've got this Veranustra Lacerate Gladiator, like, obviously showing off like the bleed stuff. There was the guy earlier.
One ring only, because why not?
Yeah. This guy's playing ED Contagion, Blight stuff, Chaos Caster, Half-Life, Low-Life Chaos Caster. with a staff, yeah.
I like it.
I don't know what's happening there. Yeah. Their test builds are so goofy. This guy's got a Veranustra in his offhand and a Barracks in his main hand, which if you flop them would make sense for ambidexterity.
Holy, he's going fast.
But like doesn't ambidexterity use the attack speed on your offhand?
I don't know.
I feel like it is.
Yes.
Okay, so he just has these wrong then. Like these are flipped around.
Just intentionally sound bugging to see how OP melee is this patch, right?
I think it's just I wonder if some of the office did that and they're like, I'm just gonna meme. Like there's just no one's gonna know. I think people are picking out totems from the fucking backgrounds. So we've seen like 2 uniques, I think, or 3, right? There was the ring you said that was the penance mark ring.
There's a bunch of uniques shown actually.
Let me see.
There's a really good belt there. Looks like there's new support for Ward in general, like a couple of new Ward uniques, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of Ward, did they mention a buff or a change to Ward bases or any new Ward bases? I don't think so, right?
Well, Ward overall, like they have the rewarding time is faster, right? Like the time it takes.
Oh yeah,
to come back.
that's a huge buff. Yes, yes.
Ward's pretty cool for builds, especially if you don't get hit often. It's like
I mean, Glad, right, is the main example for Ward builds.
Yeah,
you can get to like 80 plus spell and attack block at the same time.
Almost 90.
And then Ward
you can get to 90.
Insane. Yeah. Ward will be really, really good if you have like that kind of avoidance.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm really curious if there was. I didn't like that. They added a bunch of new bases. I don't know if any of them were hybrid Ward bases or anything like that. But I'm definitely looking into getting Ward for my Max block build for the exact reason.
I think it's just the quality changes affecting the ward.
Yeah.
So I don't think there are new ward bases, but I mean, it's still pretty substantial,
Yeah.
getting more ward that way. Because, that nerfs to determination or grace,
Yep.
we probably gonna talk in a moment about patch notes, don't affect ward at all. So
No,
it's just straight up buff to the ward.
Yep. Yeah, the belt's good. Belt is good. That's a lot of ward.
With the new buffs to body armor and stuff, you can probably get like 2 or 3k ward from this thing.
Yeah, that's a lot of ward. And also, it has life regen and it has res.
Are there sources
so
of increased
low-level.
ward, like global defenses, anywhere other than body armor? Because how would you scale the
There's
ward?
the
Right?
amulet
defense.
from Shrek and Blackstar.
Yeah, and it says
It
global
has like
defense.
what, 25% or something?
Yeah.
It's 15, I think.
Yeah.
That's a little bit, yeah.
They also, where is it? They showed the shield also, which is like Mjolnir but a shield. It has Lucky Block, which is super good, but
Yeah.
minus Max Block, which kind of is less good. And then the biggest problem with this, unless I'm misunderstanding this, it has the same trigger rate as Mjolnir, right? But it's a shield, so you can't use Squire with it. So you're just down 3 links on what would be a Squire build. I don't know how you're getting those links back. Like maybe if it said it gains the links from your main hand, it would be good. But I
mean, it doesn't have to be bad on a free link, right? It's just a bonus on top of your normal build. I don't think you would ever build around something proccing on block anyway, especially with -10 max block.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Not very high level. A lot of these uniques they've shown are pretty low level also, so I'm
The
curious.
shield is kind of an alternative to cap both blocks without being bottom side for versatile combatants.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. But the
I'm
belt
really
edition,
curious if we're gonna get uniques on the new bases, right? Like the big bases that they're adding. So that's the thing I'm really interested in. I think big was added.
Yeah, because if they rearranged all the, I mean, they could have easily just moved stuff and not set it. To be fair,
I mean, that would have said if they moved like bases and such, but like,
I mean, they don't say when they move rarity tiers of things, so I don't know. Maybe they would. Maybe they would.
I mean, yeah, but like that, if that item is literally changing, they need to make a patch note for that.
I'd assume they would. I'd hope they would.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see right away because on patch you could log into standard and be like, "Hey, my brass dome's no longer a gladiator plate," and then or whatever, something like that. Because I don't think they didn't nerf the values of any of the existing stuff, right? They just added new tiers that go higher.
Well, everything should be slightly higher. Well, not everything, but some things that have increased armor rolls should have more now because the quality being multiplicative.
Yes, yeah. Brass dome has a lot.
Doesn't the brass dome has like 300% increase? Yeah, so that one is going to be a lot more armor.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, like 20% more armor than
it was
before.
already at like 6,000 or something on the top end. Like it was pretty high. I just love brass dome. The thing I mentioned this because it wasn't.
Brass dome kind of got buffed with the additional maxers on the tree, right?
Well, effectively, yeah. You can, and then also in jewels, I guess. Right? Because you could just
more
reach.
maxer stacking makes all sorts of maxers better.
Yeah. There was they had entire sections of the patch notes, and they mentioned this also about preventing us from taking Fizz as Ellie, and they removed most sources of Fizz as Ellie from like craftable stuff and that sort of things. Like a lot of them are gone, but they didn't mention Dawnbreaker, Cloak of Flame, or Lightning Coil.
Yep.
At all, and they're all very common. And I'm really curious if they're now less common.
Yeah.
I asked them.
You
they
could
didn't
argue
respond,
that
but,
you could argue they're actually a lot weaker now, right? If there's less sources to stack that stat, the stack is kind of weaker. So you could argue that those items are fine to be common now.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
But on the other hand, if it's the only way to get Physis tech as elemental, it's kind of a buff to those items. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, by the way, they also didn't mention the helmet implicit. Like some people are hoping that that's still in the game because they didn't specifically mention the Eldritch implicit.
Yes.
I'm like 99% sure it's not going to exist, right?
Yeah.
That would be weird because they even removed like the super niche like Delve mods and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so as well. Because like if you think about like what kind of builds you would do and what they said, like they literally said we wanna people to not have 100% conversion. Like that was the goal because those builds were insanely OP. And if you add up, the OP items that you can achieve the other things with, which is Dawnbreaker, Sublime Vision, Fire, Purity of Fire, that is 50%, and then you add Cloak of Flame on top of that, right? That is 90, right?
Yep.
So if we add, Helm Implicit there, then it's 100. So they would just literally fail on that regard, right? So I think that is what I'm thinking. Why the Helm Implicit is gone, which and they said they moved it to the chess piece, right? So that's what I'm thinking.
Yep.
So you have Lightning Coil, you have Cloak of Flame to like have those niche things if you want it, which is much weaker since you cannot stack it to make it like super OP.
Yeah, if
we did
with no other forms of Fizz Mitt, that's not good. You're gonna get railed still with that amount.
I mean, it's still insanely good start. Don't get me wrong. Like this start is still freaking great, especially.
It just needs to be limited to like a few slots, so you can't stack too much, right?
Yep.
So I feel like the chess piece is the new slot. After removing Gravicious, so you can invest into Implicit, invest in the Unique, or Weather Shield, which is a big downside as well. Offensively, right? Because it's literally a weapon just to be defensive, right?
He speaks the truth. Retaliation skills. I was talking a bit with Manny about it early on. So I'll ask you, Legi, have you What are your thoughts on them? Are you interested in them at all?
I I actually don't know how I feel about retaliation skills. Like I don't dislike them. Like I don't dislike the idea. I thought the old retaliation skill like retribution and like stuff like that was really stupid and boring, and it shouldn't be in a game. So that's good that we have like more active retribution skills like that, right?
Yeah.
So or retaliation rather. So I think if the numbers are good, which I don't know if we got the numbers. I don't think so yet.
We
but,
have the level 1. So you could see like the attack.
The numbers are
damage
insane.
scaling. I mean, it's like 700% of base for eviscerate.
It does have a cooldown and a condition. I
So
don't think they're going to be very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. It's That's up in the air.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about him, because like it's hard to make only retaliation skills because you have to invest a lot into that on the tree, right, to make them good. But it might be something like you play a build that has a normal skill, like I don't know, some kind of melee build, and you just have a retaliation skill in the forling, like
Well,
a fiveling, pseudo fiveling, right? And
this scenario
would
that
be
I
like,
was
you kill the boss, right?
thinking to use them in, right, is which is what I was talking to Manny about earlier, which was like, if I'm playing an aggravated bleed build, so not Crimson Dance, right, I only need 1 bleed, and if we can get with the different investment, the CDR and the trigger rate lower than your average duration of a bleed, it kind of didn't really matter so much if the uptime wasn't like every 1 second, because I hit, I get blocked with my cat block, I hit the button, everything on screen dies, I go to the next pack and I have to get hit again. The only problem is like you're basically playing a cast when stun build at that point, because you're triggering it off of you being hit as the condition, and that like
I think for that build like that, you need like a falling clear skill to kill like the trash mobs, because you don't want to kill every single like pack with the trigger skill, the retaliation skill. Like you want to have some kind of at least like a falling to clear the trash packs with, and then you only use the retaliation skill on like rares and bosses.
Yeah.
One thing I don't know, I'm gonna ask you guys is: do you need a melee weapon to cast those skills, or is it like
they have
requirements?
it specifies the text, so it says requires either a sword or axe and a shield for eviscerate. But they have different qualifications, I believe. The other one's dual wielding melee, and the third one is seemingly nothing. Just can't.
There's a couple more, right? In the patch notes, there's like 6 in total, I think.
Yeah.
One is like super generic, and then one is dual wield only, 1 or 2 are shield only.
Yeah, they'll have qualifiers.
Because I was like thinking about like some kind of KB corrupting fever build or something like that, and have a retaliation skill, but like it's kind of hard to do.
More buttons to push.
Yeah. I'm gonna let the melee enjoyers.
That will be me.
That.
I'll let you know day
I'm not
one.
interested in. Yeah, I'm not interested in playing them myself early.
You're gonna get
if they're good, then
get a message from me that say I just one shot oak with eviscerate. That'll be the sort of thing. All right.
I think that they're gonna be playable and good.
Yeah,
good enough. They're not gonna be top tier, but they're gonna be good enough.
I just think it's gonna be a feel thing. If you feel like you want to do it, and if it's gonna feel like it feels good, if cast on stun builds that I played for a couple leagues now required me to click buttons, I wouldn't have been playing them. So if this is the same functionality, but I have to click buttons, I'm much less incentivized to play a counteracting, build. I'd rather just be proactive than reactive then. But
I mean, if the numbers are there and like you can like have a couple of them, and it makes sense. Then
yeah, you're a number.
I think it's an interesting archetype.
You're a number
in a melee pledge.
What about the Warden?
I'm happy with it.
What about the Warden?
I like the Warden until I sort of changes to bark skin, and now I don't like it anymore.
I don't know why they made Barkskin have a reservation cost. The cost is already becoming a Warden and picking it. That is the cost.
Yeah, exactly. Also made it worse, right? It's only like a 10% aura now, and therefore it's balanced to be just a small thing. I'm not going to spend an Ascendancy on like a small thing like that, It's just so bad.
Not that it's the same, but like for 2
25%
points...
version I preferred, actually.
Yeah, if it was better. I'd rather invest, But also, it should be better if you were to scale these values up, right? It should be substantially better than another aura everyone has access to. Because you're spending points on... Like, this should be... it could be like Old Determination on a 25% aura. Like it could be something that strong because it's like, well, the whole point is I'm down 2 points because I'm picking this, so it's not. It should be a substantial reduction in investment, and it just isn't.
Yeah.
It's just like
I feel like they might as well make it 0 reservation right now, and it would still not be overpowered at all. I only get
Yeah.
it's 10%.
And I'm kind of like whelmed by the node behind it also. Like
That one is, I think, the good one, if anything. Plus prevention is so good.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys play in Total League the Ahuana loyalty tattoo?
Yep.
Ability?
No, I don't
You
think
spawned her and you got like 2% extra prevention per tattoo, I think you had. So we got like
Well,
plus
that's insane.
30%. And you were actually immortal. Nothing got any damage like spell wise. I could like my bow character could just face tank anything in Uber boss arenas. It was great. And this is pretty much similar, right? If you get hit a couple times, it will stack up. Like in like a Harbinger or something, you're just gonna have no bark and have plus 20%. And 6% on the tree, right? So you're gonna take 76% less damage from spells. It's basically immune.
But
Like,
I will
that part
say
is really
this.
good.
Yeah.
But afterwards,
Since we are on topic of like reworks, I will say this, like all the reworks that they've done in lately, which is Chieftain, I would say Warden as well, and Gladiator. Those are like very gimmicky things. I would say, like that's how I would describe it.
Well,
Like
Trickster also, I guess, yeah.
Trickster more or less so, because like Trickster is more of a generic thingy, but like a lot of things are very like gimmicky. Oh, this does this very specific thing, which is honestly fine. But the thing is, like they balance the game and like balance the ascendancy in the past like completely differently, right? Like they wanted to like make them more generic and give more options, but now it's like completely the opposite, right? So I feel the Warden is exactly like that. It's just like, oh, there's this a bit of generic stuff, but there's this tincture random thing and like this bark random thing, like it's saboteur as well, right? It's like,
remember literally in the past
I don't know how I
they
feel
had like
about
the
it.
opposite direction, right? Like they used to say trap shouldn't be only a saboteur thing, so they made saboteur more generic.
Yeah,
and now they're making this like
Necromancer,
hyper-specific tincture ascendancy where like if you want to use a tincture, you're gonna play this ascendancy, right? Like it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, even more so, you have to use it for ranged, otherwise they don't apply to ranged. So it's like you're even more shoehorned in. Like, would you be using Also, I don't know if I misunderstand this, but I've looked at this a few times. How is a tincture not functionally just a flask? If it has a cooldown and then eventually it triggers because you get mana burned out, that means it's a.
It is pretty similar, but it can't have 100% uptime by default, right? I mean, only with the
how can it be 100% uptime? How are you getting around? Just because the lingering part, you mean?
Yeah, the lingering part completely cancels out the downtime because some of them have 6 seconds downtime, right?
So then, for every other person in the game,
100% uptime
tinctures are just like flasks, and then for the Warden, they become what they actually were. Like if you're playing a build that uses 2 tinctures,
you're saying they become like flasks, but I would consider flasks nearly permanent buffs for most builds, right? But tinctures on non-Warden can never be permanent.
So it's a worse flask.
Well, a stronger but less uptime kind of flask. Yes.
I don't even know if it is stronger because a lot of these things are
modifiers
way less than they were.
Should be really strong.
Yeah, but they were way less than the previously.
Yeah, they look shit. The ones that are shown here look really shit.
That's like I'm going off of I'm not going off the top end of, Affliction. Going off of what we've been shown. I'm looking at this and
that one looks terrible. But you can alt spam them now, right? You don't have to like find the perfect one anymore.
Yeah, but
so
you do have to find the right eye level one, which because they're gonna have tiers these rolls probably, because flasks do. And then you have to, because what if the ranges for things if they made them like think of the poison on first hit, like the top end's at 300%. If it's like a 50 to a 300%, you're gonna want to kill yourself fucking divine spamming, like things like that, or just wanting to re-alt spam. I just like. Someone who just hates crafting flasks, I look at these and think, oh man, it's just more flasks I have to craft, and I don't know. I'm just not interested in playing a gimped version of what we already had in Affliction, I guess.
I think tinctures kind of need like really unique and powerful mods to like be interesting, because like so far what they've shown is just garbage, like absolutely garbage. I'm like, yeah, I sleep. I don't want to interact with this
And also,
stupid
you have
mechanic
to click
is
it
just dumb.
every 8 seconds, right? Or whatever it was, every 10 seconds. Like, even if you've enduring
There's
suffusion.
no automation for it. You would have to click it yourself, yes.
I'm kind of already out
Like,
off of that.
it's a bit like enkindling orb flasks, right? Like a forced downtime, but they're stronger. It's a bit like playing with enkindling orb flasks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use those because I don't have to click them. This just feels like the same thing for me. I don't like clicking stuff. Make me click more things. The other part of what was saying, Legi? Sorry.
I wanted to say that why I think that tinctures can be really cool is like because they added so much support in the tree. So I just cannot imagine like them putting so much work and like they just gonna have some like very generic stuff. So I feel like there are gonna be something unique in there that makes tinctures interesting, like even for a non tincture ascendancy. But I hope I'm right on that one because like I probably am wrong. Well, I have a feeling that it's not going to be very interesting.
Travis mentioned there could be unique tinctures also that could be cool.
I mean, it's currently in the game. Like, you know, they added this new thing in the game. It's not going to be removed because they literally worked the Ascendancy. So yeah, I mean that's a design space.
Yeah. The other parts of Warden, all the elemental stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Those nodes all look amazing.
Yeah.
Like I think most Wardens are just going to take all 4 of those.
Yeah.
So the box skin with the good changes they showed yesterday, very underwhelming, and the tinctures pretty situational. Well, the tinctures depend on how well they roll. Like you said, if maybe there's some insane mods on there and they're going to become staple, but.
Yeah.
I think especially in league stuff, before you actually rolled your nice tincture, you're probably just going to pick the 4 left side nodes, right?
I feeling like the fact that they didn't really nerf Ellie hit at the spectrum also, like looking at like playing a Warden and then just picking up all this elemental shit seems kind of enticing.
I mean, you need projectile, so you can't really do that early on. But yeah, definitely, I agree with Manni on that. It's that the generic elemental nodes are really interesting. Like, it's just so much damage on this Ascendancy. And one thing I really would like to emphasize on the Warden is that the Avatar Ascendancy point, right? You know, the thing that you charge up and you can use it on demand. It's 80% more elemental damage on demand, which is so much more powerful than, you know, just 30% more damage.
No, it's like 2 to 3 extra gem links, basically. Contextually.
It's a bit like comparing double damage craft versus double damage while focus craft and weapons, right? While focus craft is so much stronger.
Yeah.
But it requires you to click an extra button and be aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
But like the burst damage is so powerful in this game.
All the button enjoyers.
I think the freeze node is my personal favorite on Warden, though.
Yeah, I like that one.
Freezing things for at least 2 seconds. I feel like if you build around this, you might actually just perma-freeze every single rare and essence monster and map boss you can find. Like, you just...
And also, like, if you don't freeze them, you do gain something, you know?
Well, it just makes you freeze them more often, yeah. So, like, that's the point, right? If you build around this, you're just going to perma-freeze things, because if they don't get frozen, they're going to get frozen in a couple hits. And since the freeze lasts 2 seconds, if you're attacking fast enough, you can pretty much freeze everything permanently, I think.
I like the idea of just playing a Deadeye bow build and then having this on a Flesh and Flame just for Oath of Winter.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good flesh. Forbidden Jewel pair.
Yeah, I would say this freeze thing is more OP than I first thought, because I did the practice run of the My League starter for the next patch, and I randomly got a freeze prolif, and I have an ability that kind of freezes like when I move around, which I'm going to be laying higher, right? And I had a freeze prolif on Frostbeacon Wintry Blast, and I really appreciated it so much. How much defense is that? Like you like freeze something and you just prolif it, and on Warden you're just gonna with freeze prolif you just freeze the entire screen. It's crazy.
I really like the when we you had alt quality gems, those the what's it called? The armor, Arctic armor, that had the freeze when hit, and you could link prolif to it. It had a pretty large area, so every time you got hit, everything around you would freeze for a second, and it felt like super good. Also, it's kind of a similar thing. I could see this being like really fun as some sort of raider start. What would you like recommend for a Warden start that wants to pick up all the elemental stuff. Something like Ellie Hit of the Spectrum, or
Probably just Molten Strike, Lightning Strike.
Yeah.
One of those two. Or Frostblades. Elite with Spectrum was a bow build, right? It's
Yeah.
actually range only now. And I'm pretty sure you're better off with Deadeye, because giving up the extra 2 projectiles means you have to pick up GMP support on a Warden. I don't think that would be very good without any gear.
Frostblade seems cool. Got to use the Frostblade of the Catabasis.
Yeah, you could.
Do you guys know about the bug that happened with that in launch?
You didn't get XP when you killed enemies? When the Legion killed enemies?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the dot kills weren't being associated with the player, so you wouldn't get experience for any kills that happened with the dot. That's like the whole thing about it. So you're just getting like 70% reduced experience artificially. Very fun. Okay, and then Legi, you were gonna say something?
Well, I guess if we talk about the builds for Warden, I would agree
Sure,
with Manni as well. It's like that the projectiles are so important on the Deadeye. So like you just have to pick up like some skills that don't scale projectile, which is, as I said, like is emphasizing the uniqueness of Ascendancy, which they gone back on. Which honestly, I honestly like. I would say I'm quite happy that they're going back to like more specialized Ascendancy, even though they are kind of maybe too specialized for my taste, but I think it's better at least. But yeah, Warden good, Warden fun.
Would you, if you're playing like a Frostblades build, for example, how would you get the benefit of Oath of Spring, the lightning, the shock part? Would you just spec into some?
Well, it depends, right?
Flat?
If you're playing a build that has like barely any lightning damage, Oath of Spring is just a nice buff, because you would only get like a small shock anyway, right? If you're only like dealing cold, if you're doing like fist to cold conversion, for example, you wouldn't have any lightning damage. Maybe just a little added from like a jewel, and then a 2% shock is all you can get anyway. Now you can stack them up.
Yeah.
So that would be amazing.
So even having like a little bit of flat lightning from gear or something is enough to just trigger this and then stack it.
But if you're like a 3 Ela build, then this node is probably kind of bad, unless you're hitting really fast like Molten Strike.
Yep. But then Scorch is always 15% and stacks twice. So any instance of fire damage triggers Scorch effectively. Like there's no prerequisite of damage amount. Because it's just...
that totally is. It's based off your damage, just like shock.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, it even says it there.
Based off fire damage, yeah.
So that would be not beneficial then, as in the same way, because it's a harder threshold to get a higher score.
You need actually a lot of fire damage for this to be good, yeah.
Yeah. You could run Cold to Fire.
It's a bit awkward, right? Because you don't have added fire support in the same there is, but it's based off this. So if you're doing like a 3 elemental build in your early game weapon, because this is what you pick up in normal lab probably.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have flat fire on it, you're kind of screwed there. You can't just link added fire, flat fire, like you can do with cold and lightning.
Yeah.
So you should, I would probably just make sure I have flat fire on every weapon, right? That's probably what you craft in your weapon during.
Oh yeah.
During league start on this.
So flat fire.
Honestly, I would just pick up Barkskin on league start as my first Ascendancy. I think Barkskin is like so insanely OP for campaign. So like just pick that up and respec it later. I feel like you don't need that damage.
You take minus 300 damage per hit, right? When you have all stacks.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's very balanced, I think.
It's flat.
I mean, that's mostly for physical damage.
Isn't it flat damage? Is percent damage?
It's flat, so it's 30 flat stacking to 10 down, so like 300 flat. So you literally are immune to physical damage, I would say. Like
while leveling, and then it just falls off hard.
Yep.
And that's okay. All right. The massive balance overhaul. Yeah, so they're adding more life to all the life rolls. We lost a little bit on tree, and then gained a little bit on oak. And then all quantity's gone. Surprise.
What a godly change. I think there hasn't been a single podcast where we haven't said that we would like MF to be removed, so that's great.
Yeah, I think that like this version of MF that's going to exist, I think is an appropriate and pure one, which is if you want to find magic being like find things of higher rarity, being unique being the highest rarity. That's what it should be. So like if you're still doing Ghosted Exiles and looking for uniques, That's probably going to be the same, maybe even better, because the way that they changed how, like, that's a totally unknown factor, because all of the IQR was redistributed in weird ways for how drops happen. But like, if you're looking for uniques, I'm imagining it's going to be kind of similar. But like the fact that none of that shit affects other stuff, I think is healthy. So you don't have 10,000 scarabs per map, you know?
I'm so happy that they went for it. I really didn't think that we're gonna get that in POB1 ever, but
Yeah.
you know, Mark is just based and just removed quantity, and everyone's happy, honestly. So,
Yeah.
well, not everyone.
Well,
A lot of people at least.
It kind of shifted it to chisels, right? You can now have more diff cards or more stuff like that from chisels.
yeah. Yeah. Which kind of feels like,
Which is great because it's
Yeah.
not gear dependent, right? Like the whole idea
Right.
of I have to run these uniques if I want to farm currency with cards, it just felt bad.
the only
You can
concern
over this
I
a million
had-
times. Great change.
Yeah. Overall, it's this is way healthier for the game. It makes perfect sense. In the short term, my only concern is that this coupled with back to basics specifically, just talking about quant, and because we're mentioning 17s a little bit there, is that it was like so hard to get a 3 fragment drop off of a T17 boss, like with back to basics, even if it high rolled. Like I would barely ever get 3 fragments, and without having back to basics, I'm curious how it's going to feel to get. Like, is it only ever going to be 2 and like a lot of time 1 or?
I was so confused. I thought we were talking about magic finds still, and
No.
we were talking about back to basic. Okay.
But that's it. That's my only short term concern with this whole, just because they changed how I just think all quantity is going to be changed a little bit, especially with like back to basic stuff. I'm curious how that formula is going to feel for like getting Uber fragments, because it was kind of hard to get 3 Uber fragments before. I think it's going to be definitely harder now.
Yeah, you can't. It's literally impossible to get to 400 quant, I think, without back to basics.
Yeah.
So we'll never have 3 fragments from 1 to 17 again.
It begs the question: why have that mechanic works then if we can never reach the 3 fragments?
Well, it's still relevant for getting 1 or 2, right? Like, basically just make quantity apply at 25% of its value, just like they do for Conqueror maps. And if you happen to reach 400 quant, which was, for crazy reasons, possible with back to basics, you would actually get 3 sometimes, but now we're just going to have between 1 and 2.
Sad.
In that regard, right, I think the access to Uber is going to be so much harder this time around, because they also have Kato Scarabs,
Correct.
which I guess we'll come back to later, but farming T17 is going to be harder now, and then no back to basics means way fewer fragments on average.
Yep.
It's going to be a bit rough.
But then doing them is going to be significantly easier, right? What they said.
Yeah, that also.
So who
That's a
knows?
silver lining, I guess. Whatever gonna.
Adam, I hate that. I really hate that they are literally nerfing access to Ubers for no reason.
Yeah, we were hoping it gets buffed, right? Because
Yeah.
everyone complained that Ubers are harder to get to now, and what was it, like 10 divines in trading or something for an Ether set at some point? Or was it not Ether, or Maven set?
Mavens were over 10.
It's crazy, right? Like 10 divines for one singular boss fight. But I think it's actually gonna go up, if anything, this league.
Well, they changed. I think in the quantity rarity section, they just discussed how they changed all loot values in some way because of these changes. So they could have fiddled with stuff, and maybe the maps just drop more frequently. Like it turns out that we get 17s as commonly before, but just don't have to have weird investments to do it. I mean, also maybe they're just changing the Uber drop pool percentages. Like, they like to change that sort of stuff often and not mention it, so... And maybe Annihilating Light won't be on a, Uber. Maybe it'll be, like, not a 90% or something, Who knows?
I feel like if they did changes, that they would have told us, but...
Well, they didn't last
I would
time.
be surprised. Oh, they did say that they're gonna change the drop pools, right?
Yeah,
They
but...
said they're gonna split them all up.
Yeah, but they'll put a sentence in, like, we're adjusting rates for existing content, which could just be applied to... anything. Like, that sentence was in, like, the quant section or something, where it was like, we're looking at adjusting how rarity and quantity is affected by, killing monsters. So that could just mean, that could mean literally anything.
I think what that means, like, I might be wrong, but I would suggest what they are like doing with loot is that they are adjusting like the scaling of monster mods and like how it affects those big loot explosions, because they in the Q&A they literally were talking about
Yeah, yeah.
ghosted meat sack stuff. So that's probably what it is. So like I don't think it's we have to read much into it, at least in my opinion, that it's just gonna be like, oh, I don't want this random monster with like 7 mods drop millions of items, so we're gonna like normalize that, but rest is gonna stay the same. So like with regards to Ubers and quantity and such, like I don't think those formats would change. I might be
Yeah.
wrong, but I don't think it's like you have to read into that really.
We'll feel it. I mean, we'll just know week 1. Like we'll just be like, all right, everything feels normal, feels good. It'll be fine. I'm not worried.
But yeah, like since we are on the 17 topic, I am honestly baffled. Like they said that they changed the difficulty and like stuff is easier, right? But like, who cares? Like we still have those stupid ass mods on those 17s. Like, why didn't they do something with that? I still don't get it.
The only mod they removed is Union of Souls, and what they replaced it with, honestly, is Justice Cancer, which is just fracturing mobs. True. Which was like, all right, so you replaced the thing we have to take forever to kill. So now we have to kill 2 things that don't give experience or loot, because they're fractured mobs. So it's like, okay, well,
I'm personally not worried at all though, because like we don't have Necropolis mods this time, right? They were mandatory, like you couldn't skip those, and usually there's no back to basics, which you usually ran in the past, and that's what you like build your forts around. And then also they said they nerfed the damage of monsters in there by 50% or something. No, 30%, and the life by 50% or something along those lines.
It was a substantial amount, and also they mentioned, God bless,
all of that combined is going to make them feel so much easier.
They mentioned the Revenant spiders, those assholes who just never visually scaled their DD.
Yeah.
And so they fixed that, but they didn't mention the crabs that go underground for 12 seconds invisibly and body block you, which was frustrating. So hopefully they fix those. And there's like a couple other mobs that are questionable behavior, but like you're saying, we were fighting them in the most extreme scenario and a 60% plus to their damage and life that wasn't intended.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're gonna be literally 4 times as easy when we're fighting them. And now, granted, we might want to add like
cringe map
altars.
mods on there.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But like we don't have to worry about rolling the map too hard anymore, I think, right? So now we only have to worry about not getting the cancer
weirdly
mods.
enough, yeah, because I'm just gonna give up on ever reaching 3 fucking fragments, right? 'Cause it's basically impossible. I'm just gonna roll it until it's easy, and then just whatever, because in general they're not going to be as valuable. I mean, they'll be valuable for the scope of the game now, but valuable compared to what they previously were. We don't have to like, try to milk out every amount of Scarab percent, because it's going to be a little different. Like the game will just be different.
I mean, the thing is, they still have the multipliers, the loot multipliers, right? So,
and you could chisel them also, right? You could chisel them with the new chisels.
Exactly. Like I feel like T70s are as important as they were last patch, even though they are easier, but like they are still very important for like a lot of farming strategies.
I guess if you want something from an Uber specifically, then maybe the boss uniques. But I don't. Maybe it depends how. If the mechanic itself is like super juiced, I'm just gonna not care as much, to be honest. Get the Kalguur stuff is just, and the vendors are just shitting out gear. It's like I won't have to worry as much about 17 stuff.
Yeah, I guess like we have like very niche approach to like to those mobs as endgame players. So like a lot of people are just gonna pop in, kill the boss, and get 1 fragment and
endgame players. I'm a day 1 normal lab enjoyer. Thank you.
Did they mention that these more Scarab multipliers and so on are going to be lower on 17s? Because I think
I don't think they said anything. No.
Well, they'll be effective.
I thought we looked at a couple maps. Like, didn't they roll like a D17 on the trailer on somewhere?
Yeah.
It didn't really roll any more multipliers. Only like 1 per map instead of multiple now or something.
Okay.
It looked like they were rarer, but it could have just been a coincidence.
Well, they could have put that power into the specific chisels also, if they're applying specific things. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm not too worried. That's a week 2 problem for me. See you next Monday. They updated a bunch of Scarabs also. I don't think we have a full list of what was updated, but it looks like a lot of the stronger Scarabs, especially the Divination, the Karta ones, were almost all changed. Reliquary too.
Man, Divination Scarabs are so sad, honestly. After they updated them.
the the Titanic Scarab of Legend is interesting. Unique monsters in area have 2 additional monster modifiers. What is that? Is that like they're adding rare monster mods to just uniques?
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Well, that's a
You're
lot
gonna
of
love
juice.
this for your Exile farming.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking because it says unique monsters and Exile's unique monsters. I see 2 of these on the map, and that's like, whoa, mama. You know, that's mega juice. So like that
I
plus
feel like
the Maven Chisel of Procurement, so the more uniques than you do. That just
I
could be
feel
good.
like with the changes to quantity, which we don't know what they are because we can't really know yet, this might be like one of the most OP like Scarab for farming uniques. I feel like.
The only concern is about this, and this is like a baseless thing I'm gonna say, but this is the same color as the Vision Scarab was, which was the Nameless Seer one, which was very, very, very rare for like to drop. So it's
I don't think
gonna
it has
be.
to mean anything.
I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna just pretend.
You know what I find really cool about this changes to Scarabs is, like, not only did we get a Scarab slot, right, but they also removed these more cards, more uniques, more map Scarabs, these generic ones you just kind of had to put on.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have like so many more combinations that you can actually like try out and go for, right? Like before, if you wanted to farm uniques, you only had like 2 slots available because using 200% more unique reliquary Scarabs
We
was too
mentioned
good
that
to
last
pass
time.
up,
It was just a mandatory inclusion that felt bad because it's like,
Yeah,
well, I'm
it
never gonna
shoehorned you
farm
into,
div
like,
cards without using
same
these 2.
things.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So now div card farming, you have 5 Scarabs to use at your leisure, right? And you can do like a million different strats. Before we had like 2 Scarabs essentially, 2 slots, because 2 were already taken by
totally.
the div
Yeah.
Scarabs.
no, it's so it's
definitely gonna-
Speaking of
yeah.
speaking of div farming, what about this scrying? That's a great solution, isn't it?
That's the thing where
Compared
you
to
tether a
curation
map,
script.
right? I don't use a picture of it here.
You
but-
can move the card drops of one map to a different map.
So what you're saying is
find
I
the
can
Nameless
farm
Sea in that
Mage
map.
Blood on Strand, TLDR.
Exactly.
Yeah, but now when you move the div cards, it doesn't add it to the pool; it just replaces the
Sure.
pool, right?
It replaces it.
Replaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that makes sense. That would be too strong if it just added to the pool, but
Yeah.
because you would just do like do 2 of the. I don't know if that worked away, but like the weighting would just double if you're like, I'm going to add doctor cards to a map that already has doctor cards. Yeah, I mean I'm definitely going to do this like without question because I am a single tile set enjoyer myself. If we had Gorge as an option, I'd be there in a heartbeat. I just want to run a linear map and forever. And we do have City Square back in the Atlas. There's a couple really cool maps in the Atlas this time. For the solo self-on players, I'm going on like 9 tangents here, but Lighthouse is back on for the first time in fucking 90 years, and which means you can get
I forgot about that map.
which means you can get
been so long.
Red Blade banner very easily now, which is huge. Yeah, Mage Blood on a silo sounds fun for me. But yeah, so there's like a lot of really good maps that are back. But City Square is a cool one for the exceptional gem card for solo self-on
Well,
enjoyers.
you say that card, but we don't even know if the card is still there, right? Because
So-
they completely reworked all the
They
divination
did,
card
and-
locations.
Also, on top of that, I mentioned this in a video, but that display that when they're showing the div cards in the Atlas is not complete information for a few reasons. So you could have it so if you look up like a map, like whatever, we'll just do Grotto for example, and you looked it up on the new display thing from the Atlas, it's showing the Grotto specific div cards, but that doesn't include div cards that can drop in any map or that have other qualifiers. And on top of that,
Sure.
it also doesn't show the div cards that drop specifically from that boss, even if that boss is only on that map. So, like, if you wanted to farm an Astral Projector, and you wanted to farm Mind's Eye, by looking at that thing they showed, you would never know that you could farm that card from a grotto, because it technically doesn't drop from the map, it drops from the boss.
Yeah, it
Which-
only shows the map drops.
which is like-
Because those are the ones you could scry away.
Yeah, which
But
is
you can't scry the boss drops away.
which is like kind of weird that it's like not, the whole picture, because for me the entire purpose I thought of this change was to prevent like, so I don't have to like tab, for a player to not have to like tab out and go Google what cards drop from where. But with the way that they displayed it, you still have to do that effectively, because you're getting like it would only show 4 cards on grotto, and legally there's like 20 cards that could drop in a grotto. So that's kind of strange, a little strange that's how they display it. I'm not sure what the answer is, but it just seemed like what's the point of the partial information if the whole point is I don't have to go look at a third-party website or a tab out, you know?
Yeah, I
Chat
feel like
saying the
this
boss drops actually
feature
included.
is.
What would you
Are
guys say?
The boss drops actually included in those 4 cards that are previewed. Like the cards that drop from bosses only.
Well-
There was like an example apparently.
Okay.
So
That even emphasizes
they
my
could just
point. Like,
mean they drop. Yeah, they might just not drop there anymore in Grotto because
Man.
every map only has 4 cards now, right? Is
That's
that
such a
correct?
reduction. I mean, if that's the case, that's like... I wonder where all the cards went.
I mean, did they confirm that every map has 4 cards only?
Well, they hovered over a few and they all had exactly 4. Could just be a very crazy coincidence, but
Oh, that
Or
might be good,
just
actually, then.
might be badly implemented feature also. Like
could be.
I don't
maybe
know,
there's a
like,
scroll wheel or something. Who
Well,
knows?
what if they actually really selectively region locked these cards then? Like, you know,
I mean, that's what I was thinking.
Because, like, there's a lot, like, for example, like, if the wolf card previously dropped off of 8 different maps, if it's only, like, 1 map, that'd be really interesting, because I personally prefer targeted farms like that. Like, if I want to get that thing, I want to go do that one thing, and having a card drop in so many places, I understand that a lot of them are tied to tile sets, or, like, thematically tied, but I think it'd be even cooler if it was like, oh, you want to farm, you know, in the endurance jewels for Adorned or whatever. It's like, it's not
That's
just
pretty much exactly what I'm expecting. That
I-
each map only has like 4 cards, and then
Yeah.
every card is probably only in one singular map.
Oh man, that'd be really interesting for like just the targeting of it, because it's like the incentive to farm out those cards might really spike if it's more common specifically to get them also.
I just feel like they would have mentioned that, right? Like they would have mentioned that they actually moved all those cards. Like that there would be something in the patch.
Didn't they
note, like,
mention
with that big of a
something about a
change.
big diff card rebalance?
So someone
they?
just posted in my chat. I'll read it out loud, because it's like, this is kind of like the generic wording I was referring to earlier, where it's like this could be interpreted a lot of ways, which is we've done a big, you know, that sort of shuffling of div cards, you know, so like that sort of stuff. Like that's where I'm like curious if it's going to be, you know, as we're describing it, as Legi's describing it, as Manni describing it, it could be any sort of way like that. I like it to say if it's the way you're thinking, Manni, which is like they are just so specific, because there might be some real benefit then to farming a map that you previously wouldn't want to have, you know.
Yeah, I would love that as well if that's the case. But like what I had in my head was like this is just a badly implemented feature. They didn't change much, and there's like this gigantic cards in the middle of a screen for no reason. And you still have to check the wiki. That's what I thought it is, because
Well, that'd be
it
a
didn't
bummer.
really even, like,
I hope
mention
that's
that.
not it.
So I mean that's what I kind of expected, honestly, with like how many things they added. And it's like, oh, but if it's like, you know, they moved all the cards, then that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But to come back a bit to this crying thing, like I feel like, let's assume that they didn't change the cards, right? They can, you know, they didn't move the cards, but I just think you just play Jungle Valley or Mausoleum, like if you want to be a gamer, right?
Oh, because
Like,
the
there's no
quants, yeah.
reason to not play those
Yeah,
maps.
well, I would say the reason is twofold. One, you hate the layout, and 2, Jungle Valley is too bright for your eyes. Like those are the things I'm thinking of when mapping. Because if I'm doing a map 1,000 times, those are the sort of quality of life I actually think of sometimes. But to elaborate what you're referring to, if you have on Eater or Exarch altars that are referencing the boss, they just don't in those maps, because the boss like hasn't existed yet as far as the map is concerned. So you'll never get a boss drops 3 chromes. You'll always have more chances to get the better stuff, being like quantity or, you know, mobs drop whatever specific things. So for those specifically for quant, like, you know, boosting up quant doing Eater stuff, like you say, you could put any div card on a Jungle Valley or Mausoleum, and then you're gonna just get way more value out of them.
Yeah, exactly. And
I didn't check if those
one
are on the
thing
Atlas,
is,
though, to be fair. I should...
I think both are, at least Jungle Valley is, but like I feel like that back to basics is gone. So you're gonna be running either Exarch, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
those altars definitely gonna gain a lot of value. So if you didn't know about that, you know, the cutting the map those altars, which is quite common knowledge now, but like if you didn't, it's definitely
Yeah, they're
worth
both
considering,
on.
especially.
They're both on. Okay.
So it's very strong, very, very strong.
Unless they somehow change that and that doesn't work anymore. Like the Eater X are no
Maybe.
longer. They probably should. I mean, realistically, this kind of defeats the whole purpose because, like, they were just, I don't remember who it was, just talking about Dancing Dervish with how they changed it and already nerfed it because the way they were describing it, for a very minimal setup, you could basically just always have Rampage active. Kind of the same thing with, like, Dark Marionettes and Guardian's Blessing. Like, you could just have a free aura from Guardian's Blessing because of Dark Marionettes on a minimal setup, which is why they nerfed it seems like most of the Affliction aura corpses, because they don't want they don't want everybody to just be running a Spectre just to get a buff. Like, so I'm curious if they want to change it in a similar way for these, where it's like, well, if we have scrying in the game and all roads just lead to doing Jungle Valley because you're just getting 40% more quant if you run a Jungle Valley, that's probably bad, and we should probably change that. So that
I mean, that's a very shallow way of looking at scrying. I describe it as a very shallow thing, like to minimax like one divination card drop. But like the thing is, you can like do a lot of connections, right? So you can actually move the cards or like have couple different mobs that you wanna play. You know, like
sure,
a Toxic Shore because you like it, and it drops like Apothecary because it's cool.
Let me rephrase it this
that
way.
feature is amazing.
If
I love that feature.
if you were anybody who was going to farm out Mage Blood through Apothecary cards, would you ever not run a Jungle Valley or a Mausoleum? Like a grind of that size, because that's when that's going to really add up.
Like you can do mobs that you can kill the boss early, or like skip the map and then kill the boss. So you can do that manually instead of it just reduces the hassle of not killing the boss, right? So it's up to you really. But like if you're running, let's say a city square map, like you can just bomb rush the boss and then it's
yeah, that's a good
same,
example.
right?
So then you could still gain the value, maybe even out of killing the boss or whatever.
It's a couple of maps that are basically Jungle Valley with extra steps, like City Square.
But like I said, City Square also has the benefit of...
If you're doing any div card farming in this next patch, you're just going to start farming the map where it drops, and as soon as you run into the Nameless Seer, which might be extremely rare and never happen, but as soon as you run into him, you move the cards to a better map, right? And then you've finished the card farm there.
Yeah.
I guess what I can already kind of see how you're going to be annoyed in Trade League if you want to start this farming strat. You're going to start farming your jungle valleys, but oh no, I have to go into the Fal Cathedral for 1,000 maps first to find the random seer first before it's efficient to put my scarabs on jungle valley.
But at least the entire time you're doing that, you have the chance of getting the thing you want to get anyway. So it's not like it's wasted time.
No, you have to run the bad map though.
No,
like
but I'm saying you are running,
the
quote-unquote bad map, but if you're doing this because you want to farm out a Mage Blood, the process of doing Defiled Cathedrals could get you Apothecaries. Yeah. So it's not like it's wasted time. It's just annoying for you, if that's what you're trying to do.
It's just a bad layout,
Yeah. Fair enough. Are there any maps you're specifically excited for that was either re-added or whatever? Like I mentioned Lighthouse being a big one for SSF, or City Square.
I'm excited about the pairs that we have on this Atlas. I think there are a couple really nice combinations this time around.
Yeah.
Like if we disregard this entire Jungle Valley Mausoleum debacle, I think like stuff like Strand with Dark Forest is really cool. Even though the Adorn got shot in the back, which is amazing. But that's besides the point. But like the combination of Jungle Valley, Toxic Shore, and City Square, like the mods that we
those
a lot of people
good.
like.
Yeah,
that's a super nice thing, and there are a couple more, but like I like the Strand.
Having
Dark Forest.
Having run 1,000 of each, I cannot stress how much better Toxic Sewer is than Waste Pool. Just if you're gonna do not run Waste Pool. I don't care how good a land is. Run Toxic Sewer. They give you an aneurysm.
Also, when it comes to like those nice layouts that a lot of people like running, there's good variety of maps that can like drop specific T17 because as you know that T17 is bound to that certain layout or that exact map, right? So you can have this nice map for, let's say, Ziggurat, this nice map for Fortress. If you
that's actually the main reason to run a different map than Jungle Valley, right? Because you asked earlier, why would you ever not run Jungle Valley then? It might just have a really shitty T17, right? Or
yeah, for SSF for sure. Yeah.
I mean, even in trade, certain 17s are much more expensive than others, I think.
Oh yeah,
the ones that drop like Maven.
What was this? The Abomination and Abomination Citadel? The ones that drop like Maven plus Eater.
The ones that drop Maven and Eater are the expensive ones, yeah. And then one map had both. That was the very good one.
Yep. I'm so surprised. I'm curious if they. Well, this is another thing where it's like we were just kind of privileged, but also beating ourselves up by doing T17s. Not, I don't say exclusively in Back to Basics, but like I was doing them exclusively, like hundreds exclusively in high-end Back to Basics. I have no fucking concept of how hard an actual T17 boss is in a normal scenario, especially in these new nerfed scenarios, because they were like, if I wasn't fighting Katarina with 90 projectiles at me and a 1,000,000,000% AoE, it's like I wasn't fighting her at all. So I'm curious how it's gonna feel. This might
with
be
the
like,
nerfs as well. It's gonna be barely harder than 16s, I think.
yeah, which I think is great because previously I was like not like annoyed, but like I felt like I didn't want to re-roll or I didn't want to try new builds because I was like, well, if my build can't do a 17, what the fuck is the point? Especially if it was a build that was susceptible to a lot of different 17 rolls, since re-rolling them is a bit of a grading experience. That's why I was like, I wanted to play the cast one stun chieftain guy, but I was like, well, 12 of these rolls ruin my build, so I don't really want to play this, and I want to do something that like versus doing a build that's specifically geared towards 17s, and just I rather want to make a good fun build now and then do 17s on it, and that feels like a much more approachable experience.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how important 17s are going to be anyway. Like if the modifiers to like more scarabs and so on are lower or don't even exist, I'm not sure, but how it's going to look like. Like some people in my chat were saying they're completely removed now, and you only get them from shittles now. Well, I'm not sure what's the case, but like if you don't have more multipliers to scarabs and so on in 17s, there isn't really too much reason to run them over 16s, right? Like there's still slightly larger maps, so like certain things will give you a bit more value there. But I think we're not going to feel as bad running 16s.
That's
next
where I
league
kind of feel like they
league.
really should have cranked up the fragments for Uber bosses then, because if the main value of these maps are going to be slightly better 16 in loot and a specific chance at a better unique from the boss itself, like Darkseer, etc., then the real value is going to come out of the fragments, and the fragments are going to be worse now unless they actually made them better. Maybe magically they'll just, drop 3 fragments quite often, and it'll feel like, wow, now I'm doing the 17s to do Uber bosses versus I'm doing 17s. Who cares about killing the boss even? I'm here to farm, scarabs and uniques. Like, that's where I feel like I got a little warped, was the value of the 17 went totally off kilter for, like, the boss was almost irrelevant. Like, a lot of times I'd run a 17 and be like, I'm not even going to kill the boss because I'd rather crank the map to, like, 11 than do that. I'm also more incentivized, I think, to actually farm out, like, get a specific Darkseer or something like that if I feel like killing the boss isn't going to be as annoying. Who knows? It'll be fun. It'll be fun to find out, that's for sure. Yeah. I think that when I get my first 17 this league, after finishing my beta, I'm probably just going to do it. Like, I'm not going to have the FOMO of like, well, there's no shot I'm running this until I have XYZ gear. Like, I'm not going to, I'm going to wait maybe like to a certain point.
You can still do like the domination and hug stuff as well, even though they nerfed Nico for that purpose, but you can kind of use an Atlas to make the map as easy as possible, right?
Yeah, shrines.
Take off all the increased effect and do shrines, put some domination scarabs on, add like 12 shrines to the map.
Yeah.
And then now how can it be, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling. Is like I'm much more inclined to actually run the map like week 1 versus like, let me wait until I have 20 week 2 and then just run them on a better build with a better Atlas. Like, because now I'm like curious what's going to drop versus like the curiosity of getting potential loot is outweighing the fear of losing the 17, which I think is very healthy.
Yeah, I think you guys are convincing me that leaving those mods was kind of necessary in a sense. Like, even the cringe mods are still cringe, but they differentiate the 70s from 16s, and like the nerfs to difficulty should be enough. So maybe I think I'm changing my mind.
Honestly,
and I think it's going to be
the impact of those. Some of the mobs are still bullshit, but like the reduced action speed one, I don't think should be there. It just makes the game so unfun. But some of the ones like the aura effect, like if it's 70% reduced or whatever it is, right? That's not going to be turned now to 200% reduced. So it's like only going to be, I mean, obviously it scales up a little bit, but like the incentive to run some of the mods that I was on the, well, that one's maybe a bad example. You get what I'm saying? Like the incentive to run certain mods that I was on the fence about might be more okay because they're not
stuff like extra projectile, right? Like
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
plus 11 projectiles was basically suicide on Katarina or something, but if it's
Yeah.
just plus 5 now, it's still really damn bad. But
Or even like the increased
think
damage
you don't
taken
have to
one,
roll over it.
where like it's monsters do just like increased damage, so you're taking like a more multiplier. Like I wouldn't have taken that before because they would just make me get one shot almost always. But now it's like, well, it's only like 30% increase, so it's not 90%. I could maybe take that. Like there's more of a discussion I think to be had about what mods you can run. Even though some of them are still like kind of non-negotiables, but maybe they changed how they scale also. Like things like the eater balls, like I don't know how that would even be a scaled value, so that might just be annoying no matter what. But maybe things like the blade saws like are not as painful or something, or like Awakener Desolation.
I mean, those were the things that didn't really scale with Back to Basics.
I don't know, to be honest. I don't. Maybe there was some. Like I honestly, if an Awakener Desolation puddle was scaling, I wouldn't even know because the second I stood on it, I tried to get off as fast as I could, and if it was killing me, it was killing me no matter what. So it's like I wasn't exactly limit testing those per percentage, you know. Like it would almost make sense that the dot was scaling with map effect, so maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But that's the sort of stuff that like I'll definitely try every, a couple mods now and be like, all right, this isn't as bad,
I think even the action speed slow mod isn't so bad if you don't have Back to Basics on. Like if it's only like 8% action speed per attack used recently,
Yeah.
It's still annoying, but you can do it. But if it's like 13, then it was basically you can't move at all.
Yeah, that's a good example of like where
Well, mods are going to be actually runnable now. Like we still, at least like later on when we're min-maxing, we're going to have still like 80% increased effect on, right? Because from all the passives on the
Correct,
tree, you
yes.
still want to max the
Yep.
quant for fragments anyway. But it's not going to be over 100% anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like at worst you get 7% action speed per skill used recently in that example. That's manageable. No longer like 13.
King of the Mist is back. Running a tangent.
The Ritual in general, pretty cool changes, right?
I'm very excited to try Ritual. Obviously we have to do it
Same,
because we're
man.
missing uniques, but like between the corpses could be cool. New Ritual uniques, new Ritual stuff. King of the Mist, which just gives Parandus Pact now, but they renamed it not Parandus Pact.
It's finally an identity for Ritual, I feel like. Instead of just giving you random garbage,
Yeah.
it actually has like unique loot to it, which is cool.
Oh yeah. I'm curious what he's going to drop also. Does he just drop the jewel? Or?
One thing that people are missing on Ritual, like I'm the same as you, Lighty. I'm like hyped to do Ritual, which I was, never a big
Show
fan
me the
of.
money.
But now, like with the Scarabs, it's so fun. One thing, as I said, people are missing is the 6 mob slot device is actually for Ritual itself is the biggest buff out of all mechanics, right? Because in most situations you're gonna like use 3 Scarabs. That's how it turns up, and you ended up with like almost no slots because you wanted to use like map multipliers or like reliquary Scarab or whatever. But now you can use actual vessels.
Mm-hmm.
For believe it or not, you can actually put Ritual vessels and not feel bad about it, which is honestly a huge buff.
You get double reroll, double abundance, vessel map, and then you could do the whole suite. You get 9 pages of full bullshit that you can just so much.
Yeah, and like with the buffs to get Parandus Pact, I think some Parandus Pact is gonna be really expensive in trading, like mana 1 especially, I would say.
Yeah,
like,
the fizz one's really good, the chaos damage one's really good. There's like just some really cool interactions with Scion specifically. You mentioned the mana one, and I can briefly show this on screen, but there's like very funny I just lose that. I'm fucking myself here. There's very fun interactions with it regarding like, so if you put a Parandus Pact in one jewel socket, a Might of the Meek in the other, and then an Unnatural Instinct in the other, in like certain combinations, you could get like just absolute absurd amounts of stuff for like very minimal investments because they all just dip into each other.
They were so good. I feel like they were still underrated even at the end of the league.
Oh yeah, they're so cool. Yeah.
People just didn't like farming corpus for them, I guess. But I feel like
very fair.
You want to have one on every build.
Yeah, no, because especially for any right side of the like any build that's near the ranger area, like and same with like the shadow area. Those like around the jewel sockets, you're hitting like 8 to 10 notables that aren't bad notables also in radius, and it's really easy to gain just insane amounts of power out of that Parandus jewel. Sorry, not Parandus.
Also, another thing is that Adorn being nerfed means not every second endgame build runs Adorn, so a lot more builds can actually fit this jewel in now.
I mean, if you got 100% adorned, you definitely still use it, I think. Especially because of like the max res on jewels. I think that'd be kind of stinky maybe. But
Yeah, you have to get exactly 100 though, right? To
yeah,
make two
basically if
max
your
res out of
adorned
it.
isn't 100, I don't think it's worth using for personally. That's
Oh,
like,
no.
well, because otherwise you can't double the values for like the thing. Like the breakpoint is 100, so that's like if you don't have 100.
100 delve bosses on average for it.
I'm good. I'm just not. I have a 98 in
It's
standard.
gonna be funny
That's
to
gonna
see
be
the
it.
price difference in trade between 100 and 99, right? They're probably gonna be double the price.
100
or
should be
something.
a mirror and 99 should be 10C. Like there's literally, I don't know why you'd ever, because you literally can't reach the breakpoints at 99. I don't think for.
But there are mods where the breakpoint isn't exactly 100, right? There's some.
I kind
there's
of
always a breakpoint, I guess,
disagree
but-
because a lot of them have to reach 100% of a value. So it's like reduce curse effect, reduce shock effect. If you don't have it, then you have to then use a second jewel to get it. And I think that's
I
like
think-
a
For some
waste.
things, it's not an important break. If you
No.
do a live crit multi-jewel, you lose like 1% live, 1% crit multi. You'd still find these a 99 there.
Well, but that's not the real value of Adorn though. Those the implicits are the real value, where you're.
I think you're kind of missing the point, like in my opinion. I would disagree with you as well. I feel like Adorn kind of gained the identity that devs wanted it with that nerf, which is not base your entire fucking skill tree to be adorned build. You know, you have a million magic jewels. It's like use adorned and like use free, like I don't know, like a poison minion jewels, and you cut poison with that, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's
And
fair
that's-
for that usage. But I'm thinking of like just because you mentioned trade, I'm thinking an endgame trade build is you're gonna have 100% Adorned still, and you're gonna have specific synth implicits or corrupted implicits with. Those are gonna be. If it's at like 25% of a curse thing on 2 of those, then you're at 100%. Or the same thing for shock. Like you have to be at those breakpoints, you know, or like having one abyss jewel for 50% shock reduction, and then plus storm shroud. If you don't have the
we will
exact
see
number,
people using like 95 pluses. Like I think people don't still use. Like it's weaker. It doesn't it doesn't incentivize you to make every build Adorn build because like that was the case.
oh yeah, no, it was definitely
that-
too prevalent. I don't think
I mean,
this nerf
Lighty's
is
not
bad.
wrong. Like the 100% breakpoint is gonna be huge, right?
Yes.
Gonna be like mega price increase as well for that 1%.
And honestly, it won't affect us at all. 'Cause I don't know,
90 plus is still pretty
unless we
good.
get 100%. That's a good question, though. What percentage of Dorn, if you were to drop an Adorned, would you think about using? Like if you got a 50%, would you
Adorned.
do it? Like I mean,
Fuck Adorned.
like
I wouldn't
use
because
one.
I don't want to craft the jewels. I went for that hell once. I don't want to go for it again. But if I had all the jewels already, right? Like I think like 75 plus can be viable already or something.
Yeah.
It really doesn't have to be that great. I mean,
Yeah.
It depends a bit on the build, right? Obviously not true for every build, but some builds can easily use it at like 70 or 75% already.
That's fair. Yeah, much lower than that. It does start to when you look at jewels. Obviously, you want specified things and more of those things, but you start to look at like, oh, if I use a 6 mod abyss jewel here, if I use a 4 mod ray, that just is better. It's kind of like inching out because you have to remember that the Adorned itself takes a slot. So if you were to average like the average cost of me running Adorned plus four other jewels, well, if I just had 5 rare jewels, that's not that much
Yeah.
worse than Adorned at that
There's
point.
some builds that only need like 1
Yeah.
or 2 stats on their
No,
jewel anyway.
any of the any dot build really would just like a life plus a dot roll, and they would, if you could say, would you rather 2 more of these or 2 of other things? You'd say, I'd like more of the same thing, please.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that's where it becomes really prevalent.
Live
Maybe you're
stacking or dot, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Manni. Legi is wrong. All right, so prismatic oils were added. This was interesting. So these are all on the tree. If you haven't seen them all,
I've seen them.
some of them I think are super cool. I don't think they have the cost yet, right? They don't have.
Pretty sure they have.
They do,
Or
but
maybe not.
I guess it's so it's only showing 2 oils. I'm assuming it's these 2 oils plus a prismatic to do them. That would make the most sense, I think.
I think in POB they already showed everything.
Yeah, they're some of them are really cool though. Is there any of you seen that you've specifically been like, ooh, that one's nice?
I like
That's the
the one that
Elementalist. Yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
like the one that that increases the element effect per element applied recently. I think so, something like that.
Yeah, that's the one I meant, the Elementalist one. Like,
okay.
they're all
yoink.
based off one Ascendancy, right?
Rising Tempest,
Oh,
right?
right.
I think it's supposed to be that
There's
one.
exactly 18 of
Yeah.
them. They're all based on one Ascendancy. The
Yeah.
Elementalist one is what Legi and I was
Yeah.
going to mention as well.
Hmm.
I like the occultist one, which is just 15% chaos pen. That just seems good. Like a
Kind
lot
of boring.
That's boring. Well, the other one, so the one that's not boring, I think, is the Necromancer one, which is your offerings do not require a corpse. I think that could be cool for like there's got to be some loopy thing you could do with that in some way. Like that, surely that's going to enable something. I'm not sure what, but looks like it's enabling. But some of them I don't understand. Like
I mean, maybe you could easily block cap of that.
Oh yeah, maybe.
You still need to have applied to you, right? Like I was thinking of versatile combatant builds that can block cap with the offering, but you still have to make the offering apply to you. I don't know how many ways.
If you're playing a Scion, they apply to you, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Anyway,
maybe that's a stretch.
There's the trap one I don't get, which is 5% CDR for traps per mine detonated recently. Is this like a common thing?
What do you mean common thing? It's for builds that use these cooldown traps in combination with like a mine to spam, right? So you could be seismic trapping and throwing exang mines around, and then every time you have downtime with seismic, you throw
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I was trying to give like what build actually was doing that though. I like the polymath one also, the ES recharge rate for different masteries. That one's kind of cool. That's
GG for Trickster, right? Because they stack masteries anyway.
Yep.
But everyone else hates it. It's just a Trickster thing only.
I saw the strike one and I got excited, but then I reread it and I don't think it's as good unless I'm misreading it again, which is strikes have 40% additional range basically, but it's only, I think it says strike skills which target additional enemies, so that's only applying to the second strike, right? Not the initial one.
Yeah, I think it's only the clones, right, that spawn from Ancestral Call things.
There's some cool ones though, and then I guess it really depends. Oh, also the 8 minimum range one seems kind of cool.
Because isn't that just 8% more damage? In other words,
8% more attack damage. Yeah.
But a lot of builds have an 8% more damage anoint anyway.
Yeah.
Like if you just pick the 50% elemental damage, it's usually like 8% more or something on elemental builds.
Yep.
It
kind of like depends. It could be good. It just isn't very like fun, I would say. It's just
exactly.
There is one that's really fun and really build defining, which is the grasping vines one, and to combine them with the boots. Ether boots, exactly. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of people like POB some wonky builds with that.
Yeah,
we'll see what we'll cook up. So that
having grasping vine on hit plus, I could show the boots off. Inexorable fate, right? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
I can't type. That is a word I just will not be able to spell. I don't think. I'm gonna try it. Oh, I got it right. I'm such a good boy. All damage inflicts poison against enemies that are affected by at least 3 grasping vines, coupled with the concept of you apply grasping vine on hit. With things that have less than 8 grasping vines means all damage can poison. I don't want to say the word minimal investment, but kind of minimal investment. And like the boots are nice as the fact that they have life, they have speed, they've got cool stuff. But yeah, definitely a cool like little interaction there. Maybe like Molten Strike of the Zenith, builds or Tornado or something. I think that hit frequently could be pretty cool.
It's mostly for spell builds, like because the melee builds kind of use a dagger, right? A
pneumatic
dagger from Heist. Yeah, exactly. So some kind of like ball lightning builds or detonate dead builds.
Ooh. Uh-oh, the forbidden word.
Uh-oh.
Very cool.
I mean, the fact that it's an anoint means like it's open to anyone, right? You can do this on topside 3 and everything too. That's pretty cool.
Do we want to get into patch? We've kind of been bouncing around, but we should probably talk about patch notes. Because
I mean, there's like a million things there.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. It's so melee improve. I'm just gonna go down the list and then feel free to jump in as I go through things. Cause otherwise, it'll be here for 9 years. Melee improvements, melee totem things, banner rework, rage rework. These are all kind of loosely coupled together. Most every melee skill got like their damage doubled or tripled in some way.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Almost all of them lost the flat that they had, a large amount of, if not all of the flat. But we also have like weapon increase on quality, and there's so much percent additive that I think it's just going to shake out to pretty much every melee skill gets about 2 to 3 times damage. And then melee totems were just straight up removed because they thought that meta wasn't healthy. I'm a bit perplexed because the banner change kind of feels very similar to me, like especially like War Banner, just giving a large amount of damage. I'm gonna be using that the exact same way I used a totem, but it won't die and it lingers for a little bit, so that's something.
The banners are all kind of low impact. I feel like though, like it's just a couple. Like one of them is like what 4% more damage per, up to like 12 or something when you have full Veiler. But some of them just give you like suppression or block, which is and just small values too. So
And
I feel like if you're lazy, don't want to click the button, just don't click it. It's not a big deal at all.
I think
and also they stack like pretty slow, so it's not gonna be like literally putting 2 totems every freaking rare mob to buff your ability, right?
I don't
definitely not as
doing it
mandatory
for
as the what.
Yeah.
That's the totem.
Yeah, I think for single target though, I'm definitely going to be placing a banner if it's 20% more damage or something. Like that to me seems like it's worth the click, you know. That's just kind of what it comes down to. If you feel like it's worth the button, you're going to do it. I don't know if there's another button that would be one button for 20% more damage on single target for 10 seconds. At least doesn't die. That's like the other part that's positive.
Yeah. It's really not a big deal.
No.
Like they're lower impact than the totems were, and
yes,
like, you don't have to keep them alive. They're like instant cast too.
Oh yeah.
And it's only like once per fight, probably, right? Not like every time. You don't have to keep them permanently.
Yep. Rage rework. This could be a snap reaction, but I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a nerf because of how they changed rage. I don't know if like obviously it's a more multiplier for damage now. It's totally different how it scales. It caps differently, yada yada. But you lost the movement speed and attack speed. I think I'd rather have movement speed and attack speed than I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the whole patch for me is like melee is getting crazy damage, and also kind of way more tankiness because the tankiness of like top side got nerfed with determination and so on.
Yep.
But they're not very fast for clearing, right? Like they're like the easy mode builds. I feel like they have like they're gonna have a much easier time fighting bosses and whatnot, and like actually progressing, but they're not gonna be as efficient to farm with. So, which is a cool trade-off, though, right?
There's been a lot of reduction in movement speed actually,
but the damage is gonna be so busted this patch. I think like you can make some immortal melee builds that have 10 times more damage than the casters will have on the first weekend.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And yeah, the price you pay is that you have to play melee.
Yep. Which
is fair.
Fine. Yeah.
Which is fair. They finally have a niche, right? Like like the strong.
I look forward to
1v1 power.
Parking on a boss and holding a right click. I can't wait. It's pretty much all I'll be doing.
I said that because the rage forever goes the same way. Like it removes the speed, but it gives him just even more damage.
Yeah.
So do you guys like that trend? You know, for melee that the speed got quite significantly lower than like it's more of like a straightforward playstyle. Do you like that what they done with it? Because I actually don't know how to feel about it at the moment. So
I mean,
I'd like to
playing melee for like clear speed or mapping purposes was kind of it never really had a place anywhere, right? Like if you want to have a good mapper, you would play like a bow build or an explode build or something. So like giving melee the niche of just this build has way more damage and way more tankiness at the same investment than the top and right side builds, I think that's a good idea. Gives them an identity, right? A reason to play melee.
I think that's something they've always wanted to do, but fundamentally was very difficult in Path of Exile because the modular nature of how the game operates. How do you add something to melee that another type of build won't just take? And this is why like a lot of other builds like we're somehow getting Fortify on like casters or wand builds initially and things like that. Because it's like, well, this was intended for melee, but if usable, every other build is just going to take the best of everything else. So
same with rage, right?
Yeah, it's the exact same kind of like rage caster. I mean, to be fair, they introduced a rage casting.
It was even the same with banners, but now you need to melee hit to get the charges, right?
Exactly.
Before you give it in, use banner on your caster to get adrenaline real quick.
Yeah. No, I think Rage is definitely more focused now. It's also the same thing with the trans gems. Like almost all the trans gems that were touched in some way either got a bow, like a ranged or melee exclusivity to them because they're like, well, this is our design choices. Like we want Spectrum to be ranged only, no melee. We want, this sort of skill to be this only, like, which is, it's just, it's a departure in a way from PoE's kind of fundamental model, which is like anyone can use anything, everyone's up in the air, everyone can mingle, versus more like specific
the Ascendancy changes, like you said that earlier, it's like the same thing, right? Way more very
Yeah.
recent rework has been like more niche.
For sure.
But I'm definitely looking forward to playing melee. I think my plan is to make a melee build when I start SSF later on.
Nice.
After I do trade, and then I'm gonna do the full SSF melee experience. I think it's gonna be great. I think they're gonna be so powerful. Like you're gonna shit on all the map bosses during progression and so on.
Yep. I'm gonna perforate so hard. Can't wait.
I'm playing the spell melee instead, so I'm good.
That's okay.
But no, I'm also excited about melee. Like I want to play melee build definitely in this league, but I think I agree with you. Like giving melee more of a like tanky, maybe a bit slower identity to like deal with, non-clear speed content or like non-clear speed applications. Then yeah, it's probably good. So even if we like lost attack speed, movement speed, everything, right? It's fine.
Props to them, because this is basically a pretty decent solve, it seems, to a near impossible problem compared to other ARPGs, because Diablo can just say monks take 30% less damage because monks can only be a monk. But you can't do that, obviously, for a Juggernaut, because then you'll have accuracy stackers with 30% less damage that are using a bow. So the modularity of the game is what, in a way, pigeonholed their ability to make a pivot or change like this. But this seems like such a elegant solution to the problem that is, how do we make melee feel like melee without other people sucking off all the things that make it good? And this seems like a good result.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree. That is a very good point, Lighty. That, actually fixing like a lot of problems with just, making melee stronger but slower.
And you know what?
Fine.
It still might not be enough, because at the end of the day, you might be like, I've got triple the damage, I'm double as tanky, but I hate being in melee range, so I'm going to go back to my bow. And that's totally fine, too. I mean, like, that's where, like, the non-tangible factors of PoE are the most important. Like, feel is kind of everything. So, there's a reason that, like, some people were playing KB over Power Siphon or Forked Bolt, because it felt better. It looked better, it feels better, like it's a snappier skill. And the same goes for melee. Like, Bladestorm numerically is one of the best melee leveling things in the game, and has been for a very long time. But people don't like it because it feels weird and shitty. So you just don't use it. So like the feel is so important. So, playing a slam build might numerically be way better than something else, but you might not want a piano thing. This is exactly, we've talked about so many times, but the exact reason why Spectral Helix was so popular, despite it feeling like shit to play, because numbers were really, really good. I feel like I have to play it, so I'm going to play it. But this seems like it's like more open. There's like 20, 30 melee skills, and all of them are probably going to be pretty viable. So it's a huge window.
I'll give you an example of a person that actually encompasses exactly what you said. Like I had a friend that she wanted to play, try a bow build because she never played the bow build before, and it's like, okay, cool, I'll try it, but she didn't like it at all. Like it was just, nah, it's not for me. So I'm gonna go back to actually something that I enjoy, and even though like. The bow build is better for doing X thing, right? But it's not a playstyle that the person enjoys. So no, it's fine. And incentivizing playstyles to do a bit different things and still feeling like that they are relevant, because that was the thing about melee. It was like just not strong enough, and it was just not relevant to do anything, right? Kinda until like very high gear then. But that was big downfall. People just
if you really want to break down the overall efficacy of it and get behind the numbers, right? If your friend didn't like bow builds and played 40 hours, maybe she would have done it for 60 hours on melee because she enjoyed playing it more, netting in a higher level character with more gear. Because ultimately, if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to probably play more. So that's kind of where it comes full circle. It's like, I could play the more efficient thing and then get burnt out, or I could play this totem build that's 20% less damage in life, but I'm playing it for 5 times more because I'm having a better time.
Yeah, exactly. It was a thing of like she was playing Hex plus Mines, and it was like, oh, I don't like the bow build, even though I have all the gear, all the bells and whistles. I'm just gonna play Hex plus.
Sure,
and enjoy my life.
Build, push button, go burr,
So I'm happy that what they did to me overall. Like I think we'll see what happens after this patch. I think melee is not insanely like OP. It's not OP. It's strong, but it's not gonna be the archetype that everyone plays.
I think there's a good chance it's just mega overpowered. Like
You think so?
in terms of like
Mark's-
SSF league stat, it might just be way too high damage compared to anything else.
Mark said
Like
something
it's
really
not a build you
interesting
play
also.
for like 2 months, but for starting.
He said that sentence, he was like, if you took 2 builds side by side, and one was a caster or a bow build, and one was a melee build, and they had the exact same amount of currency investment, the melee build should be better, which was an interesting sentence. So like 10 mirrors sunk.
And how do you define better? Like
Well, that's just kind of what he said. I could be paraphrasing here, but he said something to that effect. Like
I agree. They
like
should
better
always
gear,
have more
better
damage
power,
and
more
tankiness.
damage, more life. I think he just meant like overall, like that's the trade-off of being the melee build. Is this should be more damage, more tanky, for the same cost of gear as a bow or caster build, which is at least promising. But either way, there's the League improvement section, the Delirium
the
simulacrum thing.
I forgot about this already.
Yeah.
So many good things to spend.
Exactly. So
Oh, dude, I want to farm simulacrum again.
at the very
Surely it's
least,
fun now, right?
whether it's like, a really significant increase in looter uniques, at the very least, it's just half as long. So God bless on that. We'll see how it actually
Actually, they
feels.
reintroduced Simulacrum back to the game because it was in the game. Now it's in the game. It's
Yep.
so
Yeah,
amazing.
you don't have to sit there. I'm really curious how difficult it's going to be. If the difficulty starting on wave 16, that means it's pretty much like a red map out the gate. But it should be just a lot nicer. So
I mean, as Mark said, like in the reveal, is like people that engage with Simulacrum are wanting to succeed and do all the waves.
oh yeah.
So people just not gonna go early into Simulacrum unless they know what they are doing.
This is it's a good change, yeah.
But the idea is like you have to succeed in Simulacrum to make it worth. And it was just boring. It was just fucking boring sitting in 15 waves and not being challenged at all. And now it's like you probably started at like wave 18 difficulty, right? And it's
Well,
perfect.
the way that it's
Amazing
phrased
change.
also makes it seem like maybe if I can't do all 30 waves, even if I could just do 5 or 10, I still have a decent shot at a unique. I think because of how it's being tiered, which to me is more important because I don't want to have that same FOMO of like, oh, I got a 17, I'm not going to run it until I know I can clear it, or in the old Uber system, I have an Awakener. Well, I'm not going to bother doing this so I can do Uber Awakener. It's the same cost of entry because I'm judging the end game result by the same cost of entry, but I won't feel that bad because if the way that they're kind of phrasing this is like, if I get 5 waves, then I'll probably get a couple bosses and I'll probably get a unique. Yeah, I'll do Simulacrum earlier than I would have before, and try to get some value out of that versus just sitting on them until I know I can clear 30 waves.
That is a very good point. Yeah, definitely. Like if you can like clear 65%, like 70% of the Simulacrum, let's say, and like it'll take like 10 minutes.
It's kind of the same thing with like the T17s. It's like, oh, if maybe I'll just go to the boss first, and I might use 5 portals on killing Katarina, but that's still like getting that 17 down week 1 versus me just have sat on it for 3 weeks until I can optimally run it. It's like, I think that's always healthy. Like the more we're incentivized to engage with content early on, that might be more challenging because it's just a risk reward situation. I think is only beneficial. And also the ritual changes. There's a couple of bases that were changed. Some of them I caught my eye, which was like the penitent mask giving you 4 max chaos res.
That's divine flesh material right there.
That's really, it was just like reeking of divine flesh. What's the body armor called? Fourth vow, like that sort of stuff, like some sort of, or even like
Fourth vow wouldn't make sense with this, right? Because it's taking armor. You don't want to be crushed.
Oh no, but use. I think of divine flesh. What's the other one? That's the Jabakwi one. One uses fourth vow. Use some other one with fourth vow.
Oh, you mean?
Use another one of the
use it
rituals.
this week. How did I forget?
I don't know.
The 25% taken as elemental, right? Or elemental taken as chaos.
Yeah.
Incandescent heart.
Incandescent heart,
There
of
you
course.
go. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, these seem fine. There's some cool ones.
I think we need to talk
helmet is
about
pretty
the
strong,
biggest change of this patch. Honestly, like I think all the things that we talked about that don't matter. Like who cares about them? The pickup radius. Oh my god.
I'm kind of on the fence
It's so
about
good.
this, I would say, and I'll
What?
tell you. Well, I'll tell you why. Because on paper, like, there's no way it's going to feel worse. I'll say it right now. So I'm not doom sowing or being negative. But what I'm curious about is the situation is, in a scenario where I'm looting frequently, typically it's a large stack of multiple small things I'm picking up. And in that scenario, I don't need the additional pickup range because I'm already
You do.
at the... You think so? Because I think I'm already at the pile.
Yeah. Yeah, but nowadays, right, you have to click them and wait like half a second to click the next one because your character has to make like a micro step to the next item or something. Now you stand in the middle of the loot
I see what you're saying. You're saying that it's going to prevent the micro, the little tap dance you do when looting a pile.
Yeah, your character can stand in the same spot and loot everything, so you can like super fast click everything on your screen right away.
And then you freaking miss the label, and then you run away, and then you have to run.
So I think that's still going to occur. That's what I'm saying. Where it's like this change definitely is better, but it doesn't solve the click accuracy problem, which would be resolved with vacuum looting, which I think the game ultimately needs for same type items. Like,
yeah, that is true. That is the next step, right?
Yeah,
next
so
patch.
I think vacuum
you click
looting
one chaos
would be,
it fixed them all.
Yeah, I think you can even go as far as just having currency fragments, divination cards vacuum in that way. Obviously, you can't vacuum loot for gear; it just wouldn't make sense. I don't think functionally, but I think that's the next evolution, especially because we have gold being introduced, and that being on pickup, like you run over it, right? So it's kind of like it's a little annoying that like, all right, you added an item that's going to be fundamental to the entirety of the game that we have to loot, which is kind of the same for all loot we have because we have to loot like a chaos orb or whatever, right? And it's like that has run over pickup, but then why don't we just get run over pickup for currency if you're going to add that? Like I was surprised that was kind of the...
See, you're the reason why we didn't get this for 10 years, because you're going to ask for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Well, my thing's going to stop.
And then at some point it's going to instant loot everything.
All I want is consistency.
See, now we don't even have to run the map. We just you just put in the map device in our town and pick up the loot. We don't even enter the map anymore.
That's a bit of an aggressive
it's a slippery
jump.
slope.
Yeah, but you're slipping down.
I agree with Manni.
You're slipping down so far.
You are the Manni Lighty.
Oh my god. I just wish that it was consistent amongst, if there's a currency that's going to be dropping that we're picking up, why is it only some of them auto pick up? Why is it some others don't? Like Azurite auto picks up, gold auto picks up.
Because the gold is so damn common.
Yeah, I think it just depends on what the thing does in the game.
Okay,
I disagree.
So for example, why wouldn't Portal Scrolls and Wisdom Scrolls auto pick up?
I mean, they should be removed, but that's next step.
No, that's a slippery slope.
Besides the point.
That's a slippery slope.
No,
if you remove a Portal Scroll, you may as well remove an alteration. And at that point, I'm just going to buy my items on eBay. This is a slippery slope, Legi.
Nah. I mean, some of the things are really small, and some of the things are basically, the most important thing, which is like picking up loot. Like the loot is the game, right?
Yeah.
And picking up loot is the game, right? So like removing cumbersome random items that are there for no reason, it's not a big deal.
The weird thing about the Portal Scroll, Wisdom Scroll is functionally, I feel like they're trending to be phased out, right? So they added the hotkey for Portal Scroll. A lot of people put it on T for just because that's other RPGs do the same thing. And it's like, all right, so we've established that if we just didn't have Portal Scrolls and T to Portal existed, it wouldn't, the world wouldn't end, right? Okay, so, and then for Wisdom Scrolls, if you just made it so you had to right-click to ID versus use a currency, it would functionally be identical. It retains the whole properties of you can't filter out loot when it's identified. It's still unidentified. You just right-click to identify. So it just goes to show how easy that could be removed, even after all these years. And it's a bit perplexing.
I think that's going to happen.
Yeah. I think
it's going to.
Yeah, the scrolls are going to be gone sooner or later.
Yeah.
Aren't they gone in PoE 2 already? Didn't they already say something about Portal Scrolls not being a thing and you just hotkey it?
As far as I'm concerned, PoE 2 is just every month something changes. So I have no idea what is even consistent in their game at this point.
By the way, the reason gold is auto pickup. Someone might chat said it's because it's untradeable, right? Untradeable stuff can be auto pickup, or always has been in the past. It's just a league mechanic currency. It's not really. You can't really convert it over to like alterations and stuff.
You had the Kalguurian currency was not auto pickup, but was tradable, and then when it became untradeable, it became auto pickup. Unless you could trade that now. You can't trade that now, right? The expedition stuff? I don't play trades, that's why I don't know.
The stuff that you can't trade is automatically picked up.
Yes, now, but it was tradable before, then it wasn't auto picked up then. Like in League, it didn't auto pick up.
So many years ago, though.
You had to click it in League.
You had to click everything, right? All artifacts.
Yeah. And it was tradable then. So to your point, that seems to be the trend. Is if it's automatically picked up and it's untradeable, then it's automatically picked up. Is there anything else that's untradeable that drops like that?
Like metamorph organs, kind of.
No, those
Beasts, kind. I mean, beasts.
No,
have to
beasts are
itemize
tradable.
after.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you have to pay a chaos first.
Which is so goofy because we just left Necro League and we just established the precedent that itemizing things for chaos and selling them is kind of annoying. Especially when they have a terrible storage system and bestiary storage system. It's not great.
I mean, yet again, relic of the past. Which they didn't go around to like do fix, but like I don't know. I think the game needs to make sense. It doesn't need to be consistent. It just needs to actually make sense how you play the game. And
you're right. I didn't think of it in context of the Kalguur, the expedition currency. It's a kind of in a similar boat where it's a non-tradable auto pickup thing.
I just cannot really paint this all the loot in the game in the same brush, like with the same brush. It's like this thing has to be like that, and this thing has to be like that, and you can and it's fine that it's different. And yeah, honestly, I'm just happy to take anything to make the game feel like modern, because what we had with the loot pickup, it was just not modern. It was just stuck in the dark ages of garbage.
It's also really strange.
I'm so
like,
happy
the way that the filter functions work for items getting displaced is so weird. So it has some sort of like stack overflow where you'll have like, we have all had it where there's an item like 90 feet up the top of our screen. We click it and you run like 6 screens over. You're like, what is even happening with this? So hopefully this like resolves that. But I wonder if it has to do with like, this kind of just comes back to the concept.
It shouldn't have anything to do with. It's just when there's too many items, right? There's no space.
That's the whole point. Is like the concept of this. Instead of a mob dropping 10 amulets, it drops 1 amulet that's been rolled 10 times. Like, I really feel like we need to have whatever that smart roll system was, because just the quantity of stuff on screen, like last league was really, the last 2 leagues have just been so offensive. And even Mark mentioned it, like the stress on the actual server was like becoming a concern. Because you'll have a guy drop.
Literally what they are addressing this, but like literally.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious how it's going to feel if we're actually going to kill a pack and then it's going to drop nothing, and it might feel bad because it drops nothing, or it's just going to drop higher quality stuff, or maybe it'll just be higher quality stuff of a higher rarity. That's just going to be the feel thing. I'm really curious how that's going to look.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to disagree with you. It would be better to have better rolled rares instead of a million shitty ones. That's not exactly a new take, right? That's what we've been hoping for years. Maybe one day it'll happen. Yeah. That the technology isn't there yet. But I mean, they're making drastic changes, so who knows? Maybe
totally.
That's one of the next things.
I'm just really happy that they are making the things that need to be like changed, like the
big
things
moves
that people that devs didn't really want to change because they were like stubborn. Because I think the pickup radius thing was like, oh, we didn't go around to do so, to change it, because first of all, we maybe disagree with that, like some of us, and they were just not stubborn, and now they are just, okay, this makes sense, let's change it.
The old guard of PoE. Mark is in charge now. Mark is Emperor Mark.
Yeah, he is.
Blood Emperor Mark.
Indeed.
Blood for the Blood God. There's I mean, I'm all on board. I'm like the biggest Mark dick rider.
What if Mark is the biggest danger for PoE 2? Because Mark is making PoE 1 so good, nobody's going to play PoE 2.
Good. Fuck it. Why would you? It's like, you have to see. I maintain that PoE 2 is still sunk cost fallacy. And if they were given the option, hey, if you want, we'll scrap PoE 2, give you your 100 mil back, and then wipe everyone's brain, would you take it? They'd be like, yes, in a heartbeat. Like, I don't think they would. It's like so deep down the Duke Nukem development cycle right now. We're on.
It's gonna be the best game of the decade. Don't worry.
My biggest fear is not to go on a PoE 2 tangent, but I fear nothing more than a very prolonged beta, open beta, into like just bleeding out all the fun of the game as there's like they're just testing stuff.
I'm with you on that. That's my biggest fear about PoE 2 as well. Like, it's
I want a 1 month open beta, then the game launches fully. That's what I want at most. I don't want to see 6. As much as I'd love 6 months of Settlers of Kalguur, that's that's my fear. But that's another thing from the day.
I mean, speaking of beta signups, have you guys signed up? I actually forgot, but they announced that you can now sign up for the beta.
I clicked the button. It doesn't bring me to a sign up. It just lets me register my email address to get updates. That's all the link did for me. I don't know if it does things for other people, but when you go to the PoE 2 register thing, it's like, would you like to register your email address for updates? It's like, yeah, sure. And then that's it. I think they're gonna randomly, I guess, send out PoE2 invites or whatever. But this is where if Beck still worked here, I would just send her a message on Twitter saying, "Give me access." But she's she died for us.
Wish PoE had community manager. I know.
We don't need it. We have Mark now. Everything's on his shoulders. It's fine.
Okay, let's move on. We still have like 27k words in this patch notes to go through.
That's okay. Okay, quantity, player balance. It's like talked about DD stuff. A lot of stuff we kind of covered.
We covered a lot of things already, yeah.
Skill gem changes. I mean, there's just
Divine Blessing being removed is a big one, though.
Yeah, I
just straight up remove the gem from the game.
To be fair, it kind of felt a little bit like the totem thing to me, where it's like, I don't want to have to push this button all the time to do the thing.
But the current consensus is that it's basically still there. It's now renamed to Guardian's Blessing, and you run this stupid marionette thing from Ritual.
Except Marionette's way better, because the Marionette is infinite. You don't have to push the button ever again. You push it once, and then they're just going to cyclically die. Well, so the way that Guardian Blessing works is that when it's hooked up to a gem that supplies a minion, if all instances of that minion are gone, or at any point in time there's no instances of that minion's up, the aura then deactivates and you have to reactivate it. So if you had it hooked to Herald of Purity and like Determination, as long as you keep at least one Herald of Purity alive by even refreshing themselves, your aura will always stay up. So the way that the marionettes work is they have a 1 second CDR revival, only 1 second. So if you had 3 of them and they were even staggered by 1 second in some way, then basically as long as all 3 of them aren't dead, then your aura will stay up. So 2 of them could die.
How many can you have with just a level 20 Spectre gem? 2?
3. I think a 21 is 3, I think. So you would just get 3. I mean,
3 should be pretty good, but what if there's like a big AoE attack and it kills them all? Then you have to recast the blessing,
then
right?
All that would happen is your blessing would turn off and they would come back on. You just re-push the button. But that's not even that... I mean, the odds of them all dying from one hit is pretty low, I feel like. But yeah, 1 second they're back up. So it's just like, that means the uptime of you clicking is very, very low, but the downside is you have to then allocate at least one of those things. But if you wanted to allocate one more thing, you could just put a meat shield on them, and then they're never going to die, because they're on you, really.
My experience with marionettes, I tried them like twice in Affliction League. Maybe it was because Affliction League was Affliction League, so... But they didn't survive anything in mapping. They just insta-died all the time, and I had to like press this button. It was garbage. That was my experience with it. So maybe it was just Affliction being OP, or like I was running difficult maps. But like, I think unless you're running like very specific content or like a very specific battle, like running Sanctum, like in Sanctum, I think that's it's amazing. But like in general mapping, I feel like they just die and they have to like press the button every 8 seconds, and it becomes like just not fun at all.
Well,
I mean, it's still a free aura, right? Like, it's worth it, even if you have to click some buttons. Divine Blessing was worth it too in a 10-second duration.
That's what I'm saying. In the worst case scenario, it's going to feel as good as Divine Blessing did. In best case scenario, you just have the aura up always.
Yeah, I guess
kind of. That's how it feels.
It's a bit junky, yeah.
The biggest downside is you have minions, so like you're gonna enter the incursion and you get bombarded right away and stuff like that.
Stuff, yeah, they're gonna pre-fight.
You kind of need chain immunity Pantheon, right?
Yeah, that's the downside of the golem build. Also,
you.
It's like nothing felt worse than a golem build than walking into a map and then just seeing a billion projectiles flying at you instantly. But yeah, the skill chance. There's like a ton of shit here.
I mean, I
don't know.
I don't know how to feel about removal Divine Blessing. I think it kind of deletes a lot of power from casters, and I mean that's
it's
probably
definitely a huge nerf. Like that, and the nerf to like Grace and Determination's flat values kind of kills off topside, like Witch and like some Templars and some Shadows, right? Like what are you even gonna do? Like you lose a full aura and you lose like a ton of armor. It's pretty rough, man.
Just don't.
And you lose Fist Taken as Elemental and your body armor and stuff too. So
like, it's the melee patch. So really pushing you towards melee.
It's so easy to get tanky in a melee character, right? Like you have like a million different choices. Do you go 90 res, or do you go suppression or block cap, or do you just do all 3? And yeah, you can do anything there, right? Endurance charges.
Mm-hmm. Like, I really dislike it because we had this freaking tangent all the time. It's like, oh, left side cannot get suppression. You need suppression to survive, and it's like. Now, okay, left side gets endurance charges and the right side just fucking dies. So it's like, I mean, maybe it's fine that it's like the cycle of this
Yeah.
archetype is the
I mean,
strong
it's
one,
been
and then
it's
this one
been
is the
like
weak one.
evasion suppression bow builds for like for years in a row, and not for nothing, but Grace did receive less of a hit than Determination, but like Determination went down from like 2,000 to 1,000, and Grace went from like 2,500 to 1,500, so it's a little bit less of a hit.
I mean, it's even the melee builds don't even care, right? Because they get buffs to their base types.
I mean, I'm not even.
Like...
I think I'm not using either, to be honest. Like, I don't think I'm using either anymore after the nerf. I think I'm just gonna go Blood Magic and Petrified Blood, because I just, after looking at the numbers and stuff, it just felt like kind of poopy. But yeah, and then Endurance charges just feel better now, I guess, also because the LE reduction. So
yeah, that's the main thing I really dislike about those changes, because like if you want to league start a caster, it just feels rough, especially like a main character of the game, which is Witch. I would say so.
Yeah.
Like just a caster, it will feel kind of.
Oh, I don't know Witch. I have no
rough.
idea how to get Fizmit. Like, and it probably would still just run Determination. It'd feel shitty, and you'd just have to run Strength gear, I guess. I don't know, or like armor gear.
Either you skip suppression, run armor hybrid items, because you have to do EB, right? That's the first culprit. You have to run EB, otherwise you can't cast, because mana cost is like stupidly high nowadays.
Yep.
So either you go hybrid armor ES gear and then you don't have suppression, but you have some armor, or you go suppression gear but then you have 0 armor. Like you're screwed either way.
Yeah, and block requires a lot of investment to be like. That could be like 20, 30 points to get like block cap or close to it, and then you're just traveling also on the Witch. So I don't know. Just take Fizz taken as elemental, lol. All of it.
Yeah, I mean, late game is getting fixed. Like it fixes itself with gear and like with smart gear choices and like getting some endurance charge. Late game is not a problem. It's just early game, which is honestly very important though. Like I think like diversity of builds early game is very, very important in my opinion. And like cutting it just like that, because like I think all those casters just kind of died. I would maybe not died, but like they become so much weaker just by a ricochet of buffing melee, like fixing melee problems.
Yeah.
Right. So it's sad for me, but like maybe it was necessary. I'm glad that Divine Blessing was gone. Like I think that's net positive for the game, but yeah.
Well, there'll be some new min-max bullshit you gotta click. There always is, it's just a matter of time. There's always something. There's always something that you can fiddle with to get more damage here and there and fill a gap here and there. It's just like, how many buttons are you willing to push? How many ways you're willing to bend your build? It's just one of those things. Are there any gems specifically that you guys want to focus on singling out that like? You could just say a catch-all, every melee build, triple damage, sure. Well, even things like, lightning strike.
It doubled all the melee skills, and then all the spells, got worse early game scaling. Kind of like an Archmage campaign nerf. I don't know what, or something like that. I'm not sure what that's about.
That feels right.
Just nerfed all of those. They basically killed Auto War Cry. We can mention that, I guess.
That's a real bummer. Yeah, there was I was looking at setups for my build versus last league, and it's like, all right, so Retaliation skill is no longer automated, War Cry is no longer automated, Banner is no longer an aura. So it's like 3 things I'd have to click now that I didn't have to click before, and the value of them does seem like a little bit different. So like the War Cries, you just no longer, which is really crazy, because didn't they just add this last patch, the Auto War Cry thing, or was it the patch before? Like, was it Call to Arms this patch?
Yeah, it was this patch.
So it was so it's just like was in the game for 1 league and they're like, nope, gone.
Yeah, but it was fucking stupid, right? Like every build just permanently spams.
Yeah.
I think enduring cry is actually more important this league, because enduring charges being so strong, on your cast ability you still want to use it. Just you have to use it like in a smart way actively now. I mean, there's a boss nearby or something, right, to get the charges. You can just automate it.
Yeah.
It's still very important though.
I just don't know if I want to click it, to be honest. Like, also the regen.
You have 10 fingers for a reason.
Yeah, but 9 of them are in my ass, Manny, so I can't do this. No, it's just this is like a good example of where so Enduring Cry was, if you're describing filling the gap of life regen and more importantly endurance charges, I'd rather just get them elsewhere now than have to engage with keeping War Cries up. So for me, it's like I'll just get endurance on block, and then that solves that problem now.
And during composure, I've always loved that cluster jewel. I've used it like a million times in the past. And this is like the league for it, right? You want to put that on like every top right build. I feel like it has 50% armor, so you get the armor scaling back kinda, and then endurance child just basically permanently.
That's the small cluster for armor, right?
Yeah, it's a small cluster.
Well,
Another
one thing
tech
I'm really excited about in the Rinkobarjo is with simulacrum being a bit more prevalent, you can maybe snipe a megalomaniac. Like if you're in
True.
trade league, like if you're trading with the boys,
Mhm.
megalomaniac it got buffed. Like, there are gonna be many more of them, and there are some sick combinations with that jewel. It's like literally, keep that on the radar, especially like Enduring Composure, like the power charge stacking stuff, like reservation stuff as well.
Yeah.
So like good megalomaniacs, very good.
Yeah, megalomaniacs have always been a thing that's kind of been like a little bit of a meme item in SSF, where it's like, yeah, I mean, it can get 100, and the odds of that one being good is probably not too likely, but it's more like hunting split personality. So I feel like now
I don't think I've ever used one in all these leagues.
I used one
I played
one
SSF
time.
exactly since Delirium League, and
it's because I had one that had deep cuts, and that was it. And I was like, ooh, deep cuts.
just a 1 point, so you get one extra deep cuts.
I mean, literally though, that's just goes to show, like, I don't know. I'm not sure if they could make. I think it's hard to really hard to balance time like that, right? Because it's if you try to make it somehow have more value, then the top end scenario goes totally out of whack. Like megalomaniac. Is it crazy to say that it'll almost always be best in slot if money wasn't an option, right? Like you wouldn't use mediums. You would only use insane megalomaniac setups, right? You'd have like one
that's
passive.
What trading oftentimes look like.
No, that's what I'm saying. But it'd be like 3 1 passive voices, 9 megalomaniacs. Like that would be the perfect scenario. So like, how do you manage something that has that, but also make it more approachable? Because the bottom 95% of megalomaniacs aren't usable because they don't really meld when the rolls don't make sense together.
I mean, that's just the nature of these random items, right? You get the checkpoint, otherwise they're trash. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't see the problem.
I guess it's just because it's wider, or it's more narrow application than something like a Watcher's Eye, which is a much smaller pool. So if you just hit one roll, that's now useful. But hitting one roll on a megalomaniac probably isn't worth using on a build, because it's just like.
I mean, megalomaniac needs to be like quite good to like compete with any jewel, right? So like you have to hit a really good one, and
like a large plus a small or something. There's got to be some.
I mean, the power of megalomaniac is like, if you don't understand why this item can be really good, is that you can have multiple like small cluster notables, right? So something like your Wrath has 50% aura reservation efficiency, Enduring Composure, Fatal, right?
Yeah.
Or like some kind of like.
It doesn't give you more small ones though. Like that argument that you're making is for extra large ones, right? Because the megalomaniac replaces a small cluster. They don't have a jewel socket on that megalomaniac. What you get is like access to even more large ones, right? You can have one cluster can now have a notable 3 times. They can only appear on the large one normally, right?
No. Like, I think what I mean by this, Manni, is like actually the opposite. No, that's what I mean. Is like you don't have to spend multiple jewel sockets, which are the end game builds, right? Like the jewel sockets that are like Watcher's Eyes, Forbidden Flame and Flesh. You need those jewel sockets, right? And then
but you lose them still. The megalomaniac doesn't have its own socket, right? So like saying I get my small cluster node on megalomaniac so I get an extra jewel doesn't make sense.
You're still saving 2 points though.
I mean, it's not really like 70 points. It's just mostly like there are some very, very powerful things on those small jewels. That's what I mean. Like I think it's like very efficient if
you're spending 3 points to get Enduring Composure plus whatever, some large thing, versus spending, it would be the 6 or 7 points to hit that same, go through the large, then hit the small. You could then just get more of the things you want. So that's where it becomes that.
So you're saying you get a perfect, there's like 2 small clusters in one. Basically.
No, it doesn't make
Yeah, pretty much.
Or a small and a large, if you just didn't want to have to deal with the extra parts of the other large.
I just feel like you can use 2 smalls in like pretty much every build, right? Because you always would like to have the reservation, and you would always like to have either endurance shards or like something very specific, right? So like I think there are
So you still
it's
have
the
to hit the
reservation
lottery.
small.
I thought you had some like tech with a good oftentimes.
No,
but
he
you
was
still
just
need to
describing.
no.
crazy.
Yeah, he's just
You
describing
still
how
just
it's
the 1 in
applicable.
10,000 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if
Exactly.
it's that aggressive, but maybe it is.
I don't have
lot
the
of
tech.
simulacrum
Just be lucky, just be a streamer client
Yeah.
on the.
And some of them don't
do
even
the perfect
exist in trade. Some combos. Well, that's how many combos there are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of where what I
happy-
meant by like if it had, for example, if megalomaniac had 4 rolls instead of 3, would it really be that busted for 99% of its use cases? Because it's just gonna.
It would just have a much higher chance to actually get a good one.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. The top end scenario would be astronomical, but that really wouldn't matter. I think that that's a change I could do, make it just 4 rolls or something, because then it's like the odds of you getting one. It's like, oh, this actually.
I think they have to change it. It's fine, isn't it? Like it's still.
Yeah,
it's
well,
already usable.
it just means that in the next 100 I find, most likely none of them will be usable, versus maybe they would have been usable.
Yeah, but it's fun 100 times to edit them.
So fun all 100. Every time I do it, I shit my pants. Enjoy. I'm running out of pants because of all the megalomaniacs I'm finding.
I mean, you're old, so
There are
that's normal, right?
megalomaniacs in your area right now. Okay, what other
skill
who you
were you looking for? Or what are you excited about?
Well, I'm playing perforate because I wanted I like little. I've never I don't think I've ever even seen
Did I get anything
perforate.
else than just double damage or triple damage or whatever?
Just way
Or is
more
it
damage. It itself is a really good bleed skill because it has the bleed variation of it, right? But like the main thing is like that plus Crimson Dance is really strong because it hits so many times a second for each little spike. So it's just like, but it's just something like if I'm gonna play a bleed skill, I don't want to play Lacerate. I want to play EQ. Like those are kind of I've done those in my life. I wanted to play something new that's a bleed glad skill. So that's where I was like, if I'm playing Sword and Blade and playing bleed glad, I've never fucking played perforate, nor is any other human in the world. So may as well.
The skill is kind of like Old Thunder, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a little chunk of spikes, and then the clear will be mediocre, but you have pops from the fucking glad.
But that's
so
just
it'll be
melee in a
fine.
nutshell. This league, the clear is mediocre, but your damage is gonna be through the roof.
Yes, I'm
and
just
you're
gonna-
actually gonna be tanky even on league start.
I'm gonna sit there and right click on a boss and watch it die. That'll be fun. But yeah, of other things I'm looking at, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff. Like I really wanted to play Dual Strike of Ambidexterity, but I was a little hesitant because it kind of I feel like requires more high-end setups, and trauma support got nerfed. So I was like, I don't know. That's what I was kind of on the fence about. I feel like this kind of. What'd you say? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you, but like from what I heard, people actually looking into endgame setups, like Dual Strike is still very strong on like a good gear.
I just think I
character, so
kind of
it's
want
still
to
gonna be very
Paradoxica
nice.
and like other stuff.
Yeah,
but
you want that Paradoxica, exactly.
I don't really.
specific.
And honestly, Betrayal is so depressing.
That
And
Betrayal is not
even
getting
Mark,
changed till
even
next
Mark said, "I know it's really depressing, but we can't change it right now because we have other shit going on." It's like, all right, well.
That's what he said. Oh, I missed
That
it,
was like the
man.
TLDR.
Such
He
a bummer.
literally admitted that, like, I know Betrayal's in a terrible spot right now. And then he went on like this 10-minute topic about talking about what he'd want to do, and that sounded really cool, but it's not happening right now. So I don't. Betrayal was.
That's why
not
we need
good.
6-month league so they can do everything in one league.
Well, we might be getting one. Who knows? But no, I've like I'll do as much Betrayal as I need to get my Veiled Crafts, and then I don't want to. I'm not touching Veiled Orbs. That is not fun for me. That is bad times.
Yeah, I'll try to avoid it as well.
That plus like I'd love to have a Katarina helmet. That helmet's really good, but I don't want to sit there
Or a
farming.
lot
it.
less good now with the nerfs or the
Sure.
removal of the blessing.
Yeah, but it's a bummer. But no, that's the ambidexterity I looked at, then lightning strike. Also, I didn't know if those numbers were right. I
It's
didn't.
just got the usual double damage, right? That most skills got.
Yeah,
Roughly
but
double
that
damage.
seems kind of crazy for lightning strike. I don't know. Maybe it was just
It
me.
is, yeah. I mean, that's
just-
why half
I
the
was-
player base is starting it
That's
next
why I
week.
was like, it seems like a lot of damage to.
Because that skill was already pretty decent, right? Now it's just
Yeah. I
straight
mean,
up
same thing
doubled.
with like
Together with
smite.
the other melee
Like
buffs.
that Molten Strike and Smite, I was like, why are these these like didn't feel like melee skills, but somehow they snuck in and got the buffs. And they're like the least melee skills, and they're like, yeah, we'll just give them a buff too. So yeah, I didn't think Molten Strike of the Zenith needed a buff, but they just Game one. The one thing that I think people are going to really be in a rude awakening for is I still think the mana cost is going to hit people by surprise.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is why I'm going Blood Magic. I've been slowly convincing myself over the past 2 days about it, but like, because initially I was going to go mana, and I was like, all right, I got like 5 points in Tree on mana. I'm running a Clarity. I'm trying to get Elrion Rings. It's like, or I could just go Blood Magic and fuck all this.
I mean, Leech
where
is still the solution for the most part, right? And there's notes on the tree that give you reduced mana cost, and they give access to a reservation efficiency mastery. So most you just use it on every build now.
Yeah.
And
There's
you leech
validity
like,
to
what,
it.
20% of your max mana per second, right? So unless you equip like a 6-link at level 60 or something, you should be fine mana-wise, I think, still.
Yeah.
But you might have to actually put some thought into it, like, you know, running...
Yeah. My thought is I'm going to put
Running
Blood Magic
that
in,
passive
and
and
then I'm
so-
going to turn my fucking brain off.
Yeah, that works too.
I saw some people also. I don't really look around. I was a little bit looking around, and I saw Alkaiser was also doing a near identical setup to me, which in a way validated my feelings. Which was like he's also going Petrified Blood Magic. He's like, and I think that a lot of
Yeah,
people
I've
would
seen a
just
bunch of people POB that. It's just, you can get to like 10k life pretty easily now, right? Like, it's stupid how much life you
if
get.
you put all the life masters and that sort of stuff. I think I'll probably be like 5 or 6k at the end. But I'm also playing max blocks. I don't need as much life. But just thinking of like max block with Ward, with a lot of life regen, Petrified Blood, Endurance Charges, it just seemed like it was all good things that means you could just kind of sit still and attack. Honestly, just Blood Magic, although it's definitely... I don't really know if a Blood Magic scenario on the top end is really ever worth it. It's hard to say, because if you have min-max gear, you probably wouldn't bother, because auras are still so good. You eventually get Enlightens and all that jazz, but like, it just feels really comfy. Like, leveling with Blood Magic as the melee build is very comfy, if you have any amount of life on hit even. Just because just dealing with mana sucks. Like, playing an RT Blood Magic build is like, you know, it's about as comfy as it gets in the beginning.
The fact that blood magic is an option, I think it's very cool.
Yeah.
Like, people were like really hyping out the blood magic in Affliction League when we had the Sap Ascendancy.
Oh, it
Like,
was so
even
good
I
for
was-
Warlock, yeah. I mean, I understand why they didn't bring
Yeah,
Warlock back. It kind of would have been probably a little too strong, honestly. Like, that amount of life reservation is a lot. That makes it so, like, PB is way better, but...
But it's good. That's actually good that you can actually choose blood magic and not feel like an idiot. So
Yeah.
that's amazing.
And the mana nodes are good. It's just like points in. You do have to spend, I feel like, 5 points at least on the tree, if not more, to probably resolve the mana stuff. And a lot of them, you know, you could.
I feel like it would
double
suck
dip
if it didn't have the... If it wasn't a mana mastery, right? But the fact that it's a mana mastery makes 3 points almost worth on its own. You
for
just get
the
12
mana reservation
efficiency, right?
well, it's also mana reservation efficiency. So if you're going Blood Magic, it's useless. But for mana mastery, it makes sense. So if you wanted the life reservation efficiency, it's actually faster to reach now because Champion of the Cause was trimmed down a little bit. I mean, you still have to put the points in, but it's like if you wanted that 20%, you can get it. But it's kind of, it's a little bit redundant in a way because you still want to just be at 55% anyway because of the mastery for PB. So it's like not a big deal, you know. But either way, that's definitely like, I would say Blood Magic is more of an option now than ever. I would say if the past couple leagues, if you were starting a melee build and you had Blood Magic in, you probably would catch some looks. You'd be like, all right, this guy's a moron, you know? But now it's like, oh, it's a real thing.
I mean, it's kind of because of nerfs.
Yeah.
In part of nerfs to determination mostly,
Yeah.
which is fair enough. You
Yeah,
know,
like
like determination got a bit weaker, but yeah.
So like I'm just gonna run a blessing with pride. Like I'm not even gonna bother running the other stuff, you know? Then like run vitality off of life. And that's feels good.
Oh, what I'm seeing there on your screen, Power Siphon, and therefore we can talk about all the wand buffs, right? Maybe get that
sure.
covered real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Wand is actually good now because they got what
Yep.
extra base crit, like just to mention everything,
Mhm.
and then all the wand skills have like an extra 15% more attack speed
Yeah, that's
on
a
like the
big one.
base attack speed, and they have built-in Crown of Ice now, all of them.
Yes.
Right, those are the 3 buffs, or did I miss anything?
I think I POB'd a bow character. Yes, a wand character. That's the one. And it looked okay in like a decent gear. Like it definitely looked much better than it was with like high end gear.
Yeah.
And it's like I think it's like 15 mil single target and like 6 mil clear and stuff like that. So it's definitely looking nice, and you know you get the speed as well. So I think the bows are better still, but ones are solid.
I forgot the wand
Or a blaster.
base attack speed buff too, which is
So
massive.
that-
Like,
Yes.
look at the prophecy wand.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. Is there's a certain wand in the game that is a real piece of shit.
Wait a second, I missed that.
But it is less of a piece of shit now. So the Maven wand,
It's really good now, yes.
the Maven wand's problem was that it was slow and had shitty crit, and now it has 10% base crit and is almost as fast as the Imbued wand, and now it's a lot less shit. So this,
But I think we're gonna wait one league to play this because unique weapons can't have a chance from the Kalguur. So wait 4 months and then it's gonna be good.
Well, I think me waiting is irrelevant because I don't fucking own one, and it's still a 1% drop off of Uber Maven or whatever.
Yeah,
so.
that's true.
It's half
And
percent,
Uber Maven is,
1%.
oh sorry, 0.5%, and that 0.5% has basically been turned into a 0.25% because the accessibility in SSF to Uber Maven has been reduced by a substantial amount. All right, if we no longer have as many fragments coming in, so this thing is like mega chase now, and it would probably still be mediocre because again, like Manny said, if you can't slap on projectiles return, that's kind of a big deal. For just if that's like the baseline we're getting now. But yeah, I mean, wand skills are definitely approachable. Like we talked about Warden earlier. You can play a Wander Warden, but like I don't know if you probably still just play a Deadeye. I feel like I probably would still just play Deadeye ultimately, but there's
The
like
only skill I would play on Warden is probably Power Siphon because it doesn't need the extra proj.
yeah.
But like the KB or Kinetic Bolt or a Elemental Hit, you kind of want to still do Deadeye for the extra proj. But having to use GMP would be a disaster.
The Trickster version is really cool too, which I don't think was nerfed. Look it up. But yeah, the Power Siphon on Trickster was like really popular with the it kind of looks goofy. It's like an all unique build, but the charge stacking one with Graven Secrets just to get that 100+ % of elemental absorbed
What the hell is
ZS.
that?
You've ever seen this build before? This is
No, I haven't seen anyone do this. Are they like
What is
self-attacking or is this minor?
Well, you could do mines, but it's just self-attacking. But so many people have done this. Is like a very popular build, this league. But they're all pretty much identical. They're
Oh,
used.
didn't know people are doing this.
Yep. So it's a Trickster that uses Power Siphon, and you just do charge stacking. But like,
It's reverse. No, it's stacking power charge. Okay,
Yeah,
I was
charge
stacking
stacking.
frenzies. And then
yeah, power
converting with-
charges. Yeah, and then use replica Hyries and all that
Replica-
stuff. And you can either use Mage Blade, or you can use the Maven belt, which gives you that all your elemental damage gets converted into recouped as ES as a Trickster. So like CI
And Power
Trickster.
Siphon scaling with power charges is so stupid. It's like 10% more crit
No,
chance,
it's an
right,
insane
per power
amount.
charge.
Yeah.
I've done a test run 2 days ago, and my character was at 100% crit in Act 7. Literally 100%.
Yeah, no. Power Siphon is bonkers for that. Very, very cool build. Yeah. But yeah, there's a TLDR wands definitely back on the menu. Not that they really weren't, but they literally just got better. Also, where is it? Is it Tornado Wand, right?
I'm gonna say that I think I'm gonna play Wonder this league, just because I want
Later,
to.
you mean,
I
right?
think,
League starting?
yeah, as a second character, I'm gonna start something
Yeah.
different. But yeah, I want to play Wonder, and those buffs are very exciting for me at least. So I think you can build something strong.
A really cool buff
Maybe even competing with bows.
is
and lightning strike.
Piscator's got buffed massively, and if you're playing like something like of the spectrum one, right? If you're doing that one, like that's a lot of LE damage. Again, you can't enchant it, like that sucks. But that one and this is like a very achievable unique. So if you're playing like early SSF or whatever, it just got way more attack speed and crit rate. It's like almost at 2% attacks a second, which is insane for a T4 unique wand.
And with recombinators being back, we'll see about that. Let's hope that they are
I'd be
actually
surprised like
usable.
if any uniques for weapons are really being used, because between the recoms and the enchants, how the fuck are you going to compete with that? Like I have no idea. I mean,
No, you're never gonna use a unique
Yeah.
weapon.
Just
spike,
using
but,
leaks on League Star now.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a leak stack. But
And-
like with the triple stack LE1 with the enchant and like
Oh,
if you can recombine that, then like wonders
Not for
gonna pop
nothing,
off.
but I don't know why I've got this weird suspicion that we're going to be able to somehow maybe double enchant something, and that would be. Can you even imagine? A weapon with 2 enchants or something. Like there might be some weird, like currency from a boss. I'm just like totally faith coping here, but That'd be so cool if
I
there
mean,
was.
some of the enchants might be global modifiers, right? If the one
Yeah.
that says returning projectiles, maybe that's a global thing, and then you can dual wield and use another global mod on the other one.
The hell?
Maybe, right? I don't know.
That's
But some
crazy.
of them are just definitely local, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I think one is gonna feel really fun. Like more attack speed on the gems and on the weapon, right? You're gonna attack like 50% faster than before. It's like being on acceleration shrine permanently compared to last
It's
week.
a bow build with shield charge, you know? So that's fun.
No Mirage Archer and no Mana Forged.
That is true.
But yeah.
There are problems, but
Are there any other gems
fun.
you guys like?
Any what?
I've seen some POBs for
Like skill checks.
ground slam. So ground slams or Vala ground
sure.
slams looks interesting. Like it's really, really wide and big. So
Yep.
you can have some a wide time.
Yeah,
with that.
Seismic Crack gives more area of effect now. So like these earth shaking ground slam or whatever it's called, ground slam of earth shaking, they're gonna cover the entire screen. Looks pretty fun.
yeah.
Yeah, so that would be probably the melee build I would like to try at some point.
Yeah. The numbers are crazy. Like 688%. Like that's just so nutty. So nutty. I really like the also I played this a little bit was the where is it? Volcanic fissure snaking, that one. That one I like a lot. That one feels really good to me. I only received double damage, which is a wild sentence to say. But yeah, that one feels really good. Like just for like a nice clear one. I haven't tried the Earth Shatter ones yet. And the Frostblades also. Frostblades I'm definitely interested in. I kind of feel like playing Frostblade is going to feel like a shitty Wander. I'd rather just play a Wander, especially after we talked about it. It's like Wanding
I mean, the
seems...
thing is, Frostblades have damage. Wonders don't have damage early
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
So.
Yeah, early
Melee
on.
build has so
but
much damage now.
I feel like if it's a second character, it's irrelevant because I'll just have leveling gear and like stuff for that. But if like a league start, it'd be, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, Frostblades League started looked very juicy. Like
Yeah,
you know,
I think it would be.
people are gonna be playing that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's a good choice.
Any other gems you guys want to talk about?
I'm sure we missed some, but
That's
Tons
inevitable.
of other stuff to talk about anyway.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we talked about the archetypes, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
The melee and the wonders.
Support gems. There's some interesting stuff.
Inspiration
here.
change. A
That's
lot
what I was
of
going to
the
mention. Yeah.
gems have been changed from increased to more, or like reduced to less, right?
Yeah.
Inspiration, increased duration, less duration. I guess less duration always had that element, but yeah, it's interesting about the inspiration is that Archmage gets kind of screwed by it because their mana cost is going to be nearly or more than double than before.
Yep.
Not being able to stack reduced mana cost anymore.
Yeah.
It's also a slight nerf for like even like melee builds because they probably pick up the mastery for reduced mana cost, right? The 3-pointer there somewhere, and that doesn't stack additively anymore either.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, overall, it's just most of these things are in line with, like, nothing is a wild whatever. Like, Fuse channeling was changed a little bit. I feel like the channeling support has been just reduced over the years so drastically. Just no channeling on tree, etc. I'm surprised they haven't just, like, phased it out as a tag.
Yeah, they hate channeling for some reason.
I don't know.
Like it's not coming back.
Yeah, no.
We had a good time with channeling skills, and then they just decided to remove the nodes, and now it's just left in the dust for 5 years. One day we're gonna be channeling. We had channeling league mechanics 3 times in a row.
We have channeling. It's just
Can we stop talking about channeling,
we
please?
channel on a totem.
I'm getting PTSD
Oh
here.
no, he's getting PTSD.
We're getting a channeling league mechanic again this time.
True.
Crucible
Slightly.
mechanic is back, right? One of the versions of the current league mechanic or next league mechanic.
I'm gonna skip that one.
Crucible. It's the best one.
Oh fuck!
I think
I didn't
Crucible-
know that. Actually, I didn't know that before this.
Honestly,
podcast.
I would.
You literally ruined the league for me, Manni. How could you?
I think the Crucible change I'd love to see if they added it in was just a currency that dropped, and if you use it on an item like that could have had a Crucible tree, like use it on a bow, for example, it gives you a full Crucible tree that you can't change or interact with in any way. Just like this is what your item has now. That's it. There's no touching this ever. You don't like it?
But then you have to do the 100 attempts before you even start crafting. That's not a good idea.
No, there's no removing it and there's no changing it. That's it. Like,
Yeah, so you have to get your tree before you even start crafting. Is what I'm saying then.
oh yeah, yeah.
It's almost like doing blighted mobs to get a double anoint now.
My body's ready. The Ascendancy changes. Berserker was changed, I would say, mostly just to be in line with the rage changes. I don't really know if there's kind of what we talked about, probably more damage and just less movement and attack speed, but
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah. And then Chieftain was kind of just a similar change. They removed the totem stuff because no totems, and they changed it to war cry stuff. I did like how they added the war cries have infinite power part. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like there are gonna be some kind of very early games chieftain like slum setups. I think they're gonna be very strong. Like people are gonna discover those during this league. I'm actually looking forward to.
You know, my first thought about this was the OG burning discharge build. Was like if you have infinite power, that means like an enduring cry in a pack, get 10 endurance charges and then discharge them. Like that was my first thought, because that used to be a build back in the day. And this kind of enables that again, which is kind of fun.
Maybe
funky.
like mostly I'm actually looking forward to people doing like two-handed, like you can actually play two-handed slums and you don't need red blade banner, right?
Yeah.
So that's the big thing about chieftain, and like chieftain has a lot of tankiness, right? So if you have the damage, you have the tankiness, and you have the utility from the ascendancy. So I think that is honestly something maybe people didn't POB enough, or like they are not interested in it for now. But like I think chieftain is a sleeper in a sense.
I think it was already pretty fine, to be honest. But I played it a few leagues in a row ever since they had the res change. But the res change is less prevalent now, I think, because of the jewels. I think the jewels in the tree, they've added what, like 2 or 3%, or 2-3 max res on the tree, and then there's also just through the jewels now. So if anything, it'd be easier to play with a chieftain and just get that fire res up. Just like imagine playing a chieftain and having the jewels now. Every one of your jewels can just have 1 fire res, and it's like boom, you're at cap like instantly. Or just
maybe.
What's it called? What's the fucking jewel called? The eater one does the chieftain thing.
Molding of the flesh.
Yes, that one. Yeah, I could see that being in a block league, like maybe some Aegis Aurora things with that plus just like 1% cold on 5 nodes.
Maybe
could be pretty hot. Something along those lines. Yeah. Then Juggernaut was changed, which I think was also kind of just in line with the endurance charge change. Although ultimately I think this ends up being more chaos mitigation. Yeah, because it's worse, less against dots.
The armor applies to chaos now, yeah.
Yeah, but then you just don't have any early.
For elemental damage, you have mega reduction from the new endurance charges.
Yep.
So instead of having 8% flat that you had before, now we have like 5% per charge, right?
So
and you have
40.
like 10 charges.
Yeah. Got it. Or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Jug is still
huge.
extremely strong. Like it's one of the best ascendancies still.
Don't
like,
know
for
what
me.
Jug
So
build I'd
Jug
play,
is
though.
super good.
What would be your top Jug builds, each of you? Like if you had to play one, and you can't say bone shatter, no bone shatter. Even though it probably would be bone shatter. It's probably my pick too. But...
It's probably some slams, like ground slam.
Yeah.
Ground slam sounds good. Like or Earth Shadow. Like just still, you can play any build on Jug and you can be fine.
Bunga. Yeah.
You could play bleed EQ or something, or bleed ground slam.
Could
Maybe.
You just slam the ground.
Is it just me, or did Champion get like super nerfed?
Yeah, champion is fucking gone.
Okay.
What is a champion?
It's funny 'cause
explain that. I don't know what it is.
I read this, and then I literally was like, had to read it like 3 times.
You just
so I was
nerfed the
like,
shit out of it, yeah.
I was like, did they just gut Champion like in 3 different directions? And it's like they did. To be fair, it was being used very frequently, and then like I would say on builds that probably wouldn't make sense to be a champion thematically, because it's just like, oh, I'll play champion, I get auras, I take less damage. This works for everything I'm playing, you know. So I get that it was like, right now it feels like it's in the in between of what Legi was talking about, where it's like right now champion is bad and has no identity, and I think they're probably going to change it.
It has a new identity now.
Yeah, big shit. That's not an identity.
No, it's a support ascendancy now. You play it in like when you have like a 5 or 6 man party, you run out of ascendancies to play. One of them is going to pick up a champion now.
I'm sorry.
It has 45 everyone.
What game are we playing? 5 or 6 people. My graphics card can't support that.
It's so sad what they did to champion, man. It's actually so sad. They removed stun immunity. They removed like all the utility. Nerfed it. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. I'm so sad.
Yeah. Well,
immediately they literally deleted an ascendancy.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Later, champion. Gladiator, which is what I'm league starting, has been buffed in a variety of ways. Some of them are we've gotten clarification on, and some of them we've not yet gotten clarification on because there's some questions to be had. They mentioned how the aggravated bleed works. If you have the gladiator thing, all your hits are aggravated. So the second you put a bleed on, it does damage as if they're moving. Seems good.
It's just weird, right? Because when you play aggravated bleeds, I feel like you want to play a two-hander, right, and hit as hard as possible.
100% chance.
Just have one bleed. But then you're a glad, and your Ascendancy of also on shields and dual wield. It's
I don't really get it. Also, like, not for nothing, but if you're playing bleed bow, I don't think you have 8 points you could put on. Because I think that the other nodes don't work. So, like, it's weird, like, they did stuff like that.
I think bleed bow is like, actually, you're probably not gonna play it even on a champion. Oh, sorry, on the
maybe a Scion.
I think
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's very awkward.
But you literally could only put in 6 points for a bleed bow, because the other ones don't work at all.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. So the other parts of Glad that were changed. So the top one is the one that's confusing. So there's the block one. We've gotten clarification. All it does is that whatever your shield's block value is, it's just replaced with 50% base. Just gives you a ton of block. Lucky block artificially can go over the Kappa block effectively, and it shakes out. You end up having like 90% block when you have lucky block. TLDR. What other thing? I think that was pretty much it for clarity. Oh yeah, then the thing we don't know about is the War of Attrition Ascendancy. This is the one that's goofy, because we do know that in your presence is a specific measure. I believe it's 8 meters in game. So it's whatever, like double nearby, because I think nearby is 4. It doesn't matter. Whatever, it has an amount. But the part that is weird is this part. It says for each second. Let me get the exact wording, because it's for each second they've ever been in your presence, up to 100%. So that means that if you're fighting Maven for 15 seconds, you now have 15% more damage, right? Just across the board. And then she phases, and then she comes back, and it should just keep ticking up that 15% from that point on, because they've been in your presence at some point in that instance. Which means...
Well, is it the same Maven? Because she gets a new health bar, right? Is it the same Maven? Or
so that's the clarification, right? That's what we need to know. Because if
I think she just gets healed, right? Because you don't get Val Souls either. That means she must be getting healed, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that Maven where you don't get Val Souls?
Maybe, or a Shaper, one of the two.
Just getting healed to full, I think.
But, so, if that's the case, right? That means that after 15 seconds, you have 15% more damage, and 20 seconds, you have 20%. I mean, I think after 30 seconds, this is more damage than any notable in the keystone of the game then, because it's good. Like, most boss fights can take up, over 100 seconds. Over the course of that,
true, yeah.
Over the course of that boss fight, you're getting more damage out of this than anything else. And it doesn't take long to hit. Like, so it's funny because you compare it to the other thing. So Weapon Master is the other one, right? This is a goofy one, and everyone gets rock hard because they think Vera Nostra, right? It's like, ooh, Vera Nostra. So it's more accuracy with swords, more AoE with maces and scepters, more crit with daggers. Leech is instant with claws, more damage against low life with axes. So 30% against low life means it's shaking out to be 15% more damage on average. Sure. If you have Vera Nostra, you trigger all these things, but you then have to play a build that is an accuracy, AoE, crit, leech build. That's not every build doesn't fit that qualification. So if you compare this to the axe node, right? If you're just using an axe, and this is on average 15% more damage, unless you're killing the boss in 15 seconds effectively, War of Attrition is better, because after 15 seconds you're now getting more damage overall. And which would have to be after 25 seconds, it's reached the breakpoint where it's more damage in the first 15 plus the back half. So, like, I don't know why you'd ever spec into Weapon Master when you could just spec into War of Attrition. Does it make sense?
No, not really.
No, not really.
Oh my god.
No, we are actually serious.
I don't even... What do you mean? What don't you get? Weapon Master.
You have to be in melee. It has ramp. That War of Attrition is like, it's perfect for you, Lighty, when you...
Well, that's a melee build.
On top of Maven.
By the time the War of Attrition beats the other node, the boss should already be dead. Right? Like,
15 seconds?
Exactly Maven. Sure, there's a couple of boss fights that take really long, right? The Uber bosses specifically, because they have like a million phases. But
when Shaper's talking to you, this should be ticking up.
No, I don't think so.
Why wouldn't it be?
He's not active. He's not active.
He's not actually fighting you, yeah.
But each time between... you're not ending the phases in 10 seconds. Like, if you end a phase in 10 seconds, because he has a DR in his damage taken, After the second time,
I mean, I agree.
that
The node is very good against the 7 pinnacle bosses, pretty much, or maybe 5 of them. That's pretty much about it, though.
Yeah.
It's not good anywhere else, really.
Well, I don't know. I don't think you think the other thing
But
is
you're
better.
not making a
objectively?
boss killer Glad, right? You're not going to make a Glad build that only does Uber bosses. You can make a million better builds than a Glad.
Yeah. But what
So
else? Yeah.
I don't really see the point.
I think Glad is super mediocre. It's gonna be like feel nice, lazy, softcore Ascendancy because like block is cool and you're gonna be like kind of artificially tanky and sometimes you're gonna die, but you can build around it. So I think for that it kind of fits the bill of like a chieftain gimmicky build.
I think it can be an
That's one thing.
extremely OP build for certain situations.
Yeah,
Because like Simulacrum, for example, right? There's
Yeah.
so many mobs, so you get the block is insanely powerful there.
Yeah.
And the pops are insanely powerful there. And then you could even make use of the War of Attrition node against tanky bosses in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be good for that.
For some content, it's amazing.
So I think like yeah, that's exactly what Glad does good is like you build a Glad to do like specific thing and it gotta shine like because blog is good at that kind of. Except that I think Glad is just
Well, you're still a fucking melee build clearing right in front
it's
of
kind
you.
of mediocre honestly. Like unless you do very specific things, Glad is mediocre. So I honestly think it's a maybe not chieftain tier rework, but like it's a bit better than Sabo rework, but it's like very shallow for me. Like I don't like the rework for Glad honestly.
I just don't like
Even
half
though
of
like
it.
you can like make OP builds with that like for certain situations.
It's way better than before. We agree,
Yes.
right?
Definitely,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
There will definitely be Glad builds now,
Oh,
as
yeah.
opposed to before.
Deadeye was changed, and the Rupture is gone, and they replaced it with 1 Frenzy and then gain Frenzy while moving, which just pretty means, I mean, that just means you always have Frenzy charges, because I don't know. If your
Yeah,
charges
it's like
last
the Raider
10
replacement,
seconds, it's
basically.
like, yeah.
It's kind of lame, though. It's just +1 frenzy. It doesn't have any like damage per frenzy or speed per frenzy like Raider had. It's kind of just +1 frenzy. But it's really good for replica batch stuff, right? Maybe that's how you make it Deadeye tanky.
Yeah.
Get your 8 endurance charges going.
Elusive.
I mean, it has more accuracy on it, like on that thing, right? So like if you're doing some kind of
5% more
stacker,
accuracy per frenzy, yeah.
so
Accuracy
it might
stacker,
be.
sure.
I mean, like that's what I'm thinking. Like some kind of spell build that needs frenzy somehow, right? And now that long partial is changed, right? So that can be okay, I think.
Yes.
So you can actually play a spell Deadeye again, like you could before.
Exquanguinate.
Sure, it actually works on spells now. I didn't even think of that. I know
Exquanguinate.
it works on like ailments now for like bleed bow and such, but it actually works on spells too. You're right.
So you can do like
what?
Tailwind, Frenzies, projectiles, and Tailwind. So honestly, like Deadeye looks pretty nice for like projectile spellcasting.
Faster Deadeye exists again. Yeah, that's true.
Wow. Yeah. Full circle. We talked about Warden a bunch. Not much to add there, I don't think, right? Like,
Warden, good. Warden.
Yeah.
And then Ascendant. Ascendant, I think, got kind of shafted by a lot of this. There was the
I feel
Berserker
like they
one.
gave up on Cyan like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
They're just a remnant.
Which is funny
Why is it
because
even still there?
only this league they removed the random stipulation that you can't play SSF until you've unlocked the Scion. They removed that this league, which has been in the game forever.
Sure.
So it's like you had to play to level 30, and now you're allowed to play solo self-found. But now that's removed because fucking sure.
The Cyan Raider was one of the best ones, right? Because it provided
I like that
frenzies,
one.
and now they got moved to Deadeye basically. Deadeye now is the frenzy provider, and it has like some projectile stuff instead of suppression and onslaught.
Yep.
Not sure if that makes it better or worse for Cyan in general.
Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, I think Pathfinder's still probably better than both of them, but yeah, no, the Raider just like it lost movement speed. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can have an additional tincture active. That's a pretty unique thing. I don't know if it'll be a good thing, but it's a unique thing.
Yeah, but they're not permanent if you're not an actual one.
Correct. That's where it just is.
I don't know why it's there. Like it's so funny to me that
the gladiator portion though is pretty nice for. That's where it just gives you 50% base block, which is kind of juicy. And it gives you the
really cool.
It gives you the 1% ramping damage up to 50% for rare and uniques. So that's a lot. I mean, that could be a lot potentially again, depending on how that's worded. But it's every 2 seconds, which is like me. Anyway, passive tree changes. So there's been a bunch of passive tree changes. Valpak coming back is one of the bigger notables, but for only for melee. But life leech for melee is instant is pretty huge. You know, for Valpak builds. All the melee enjoyers out there. What else has changed?
One of the more notable changes was moving of the dark cards. So, like, you know, they nerf caster leveling twofolds right now, the GG way.
Oh, really?
So
Didn't even see that.
Yeah. It moved to like where pain attunement is, so you cannot take dark cards.
What the fuck?
Level.
Yeah, wait, it's a shadow thing now?
Yeah, I think
Need
so.
to pick it on my shadow, dude. Log in.
Okay, dude.
It is.
They buffed Perfect Agony a lot. I just read over that on your page. That was one of the biggest changes there, probably.
Yeah, that's a big one. They removed all the 30 nodes. Or sorry, you can't be anointed. Sorry, I removed them. My brain.
It's simply because they ran out of combinations. Right?
Yeah, which is really funny. I just like that, and they did put a little emote next to it, because it's like just.
Speaking of that, I'll show you something, lady. I was ready. It is actually the funniest shit, because like I didn't know obviously before the patch notes they're gonna do it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something, and I pretty much, you know, divine the future. I'll link it something in a second.
I'm holding.
Just need to log in.
Log in, dude. Log in.
You're in game. You're not in game.
He's gaming. I'm not in game. You can take a screenshot. Take a little screenshot. Yeah, most of the changes are pretty minimal as far as like the paths. Like they're all just in line with what we have. I like the res changes though. Those are nice. The new max res nodes. Welcome to that.
I mean, that's what we've been also always telling, like, right, that melee needs more max res on the left side, and they finally did it.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm happy about that.
You have a beef spore guard just in case.
Yeah, it was pretty funny to me that like I anointed beef on my spore guard a day before patch, and I was like, okay, you cannot do that anymore.
Beef guard.
I knew something.
You're beef guarding and you're beef maxing.
And I have a legacy spore guard now.
Oh, a legacy spore guard.
Just in time.
And speaking of those max res nodes, doesn't it mean Chieftain can just get 90 res with just 3 plus like 2 or 3 jewels, which shouldn't be that hard to roll either, probably?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
And then put in like a Purity Fire, of course.
Yep.
Sounds kind of OP, dude.
Yep. Now they did unironically. I don't know if this was intentional, but they pathed it in a way. I'm not sure this is going to be the case, but the fire is on the bottom side of the triple res node versus the top where you typically path by. So yeah, it's just interesting that they put it there. So it's like, you want that fire, don't you, Chief? And you got to go to the bottom. You can't go from the top. Like, but maybe you'll probably be passing through Arsonist anyway, so it's not like a big deal. But no, it's just extra res there is always welcome. Definitely making a... I'm curious if they actually tweaked the elemental damage just like overall in game on top of the fact that we just like Fizz taking his Ellie maybe was removed in some way, because giving us this much of Ellie res, like they've basically given every build the option of just adding 5 or 6 targeted elemental resistances, which we could mess with melding or chieftain or whatever for like kind of free option. And it's just surprising that, you know, they did that. Also, was it Sanctum of Thought that now has, I think it's for Sanctum of Thought plus Mastery plus the Armor Mastery is 80% reduced crit damage, which is pretty juicy. Not quite 100%, but that feels good. It's a lot of reduction.
Now that you mentioned crit immunity, it reminded me that the Wildwood is back. Did we even mention that?
We didn't.
We didn't, yeah. And that means something. They've kind of been a bit secretive about, I feel like, what exactly, because they mentioned that the Wildwood's back in a capacity. We know that you walk in, you do wisps, there's events, right? But those events may have changed, and you know, it's interesting because they doubled the wisps you get from the wisp Scarab. Not that it was super strong before.
That Scarab was completely unnoticeable. Even he stacked 4 of them, he didn't even notice any extra.
It would be like I had it proc one time on a ruckus, and I was like, only like 2 or 3 exiles for triple wisps. And I was like, I have 4,000 wisps on this map, you know. But 8,000 wisps, well, I assume it's still limit 4, but if it's 8,000 wisps, that's like, that could be a lot.
Yeah, so
you know?
what if you use 4 wisp scarabs and then you find a random wildwood and you high roll?
That's
Are
a
some
great
monsters gonna
question.
have like 20k wisps on them?
Maybe. Well, the thing is, it seems like the scarabs were divvied up not equally. It's not as if everything had 8k wisps. It was like, you know, it was like some went somewhere. Like definitely when I put on all 4, not everything was wisped, but like a bunch of stuff was wisped. Definitely be worth testing out though. It's also like then you could also on top of that maybe add in the keystone that makes it so the final boss is wisped, and have something triple wisped.
Hell yeah, dude.
Oh my god!
Gonna take an hour to kill all the monsters in that map. They're gonna be so incredibly tanky.
Double it and give it to the next person. For unique items, we talked about Adorned.
Chaos Heart 1k life again.
Yeah, Chaos Heart's interesting. You know, it's obviously like that's a substantial change, right? Without question. Is it even going to be that good? Like we've had Ul Natal, is it Ul Natal's body or Utulu's body, which has had close to that amount. Obviously had some prereqs, but like people were using that. So you think they would use this now and risk losing the sockets, or they're going to just keep on the Tulus? The Tulus
It's gonna be like
million they're gonna use it.
early game, like unique for certain setups, but like I think
Yeah.
it's not very good.
Yeah,
One
like I
thing,
can see people in hardcore use this on League Start, right?
Yeah.
Like your,
Maybe,
your
yeah.
early game, if you're using a 2-handed weapon for your 6-link and use that thing, just get your life early on.
For sure.
I think the unique that we should honestly mention that got completely destroyed.
Eternal Damnation?
It's Taste.
Oh, no.
Eternal
Oh, Taste
Damnation.
of Fate.
No, not really. Taste of Hate, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the like one of the biggest uniques for like so many
Mitigation,
builds.
yeah.
Obviously, that is with the Taken S thing, but like honestly unusable now. It's like it's so bad.
Unusable? What? It's so good. What do you mean?
Really? Am I like
Yeah.
missing something?
It still gives you max cold rest, right? And then you have 30% fire and lightning taking as cold. So it basically gives fire and lightning max rest to just small amount. And you still get the physical extra cold, right? So any physical, like if you only use it when you need it offensively, but like when it fits offensively, right? It's really, really good still.
I definitely just think it probably won't be like the 4th flask of Pathfinder used for Fizmit though. Like you think it would still be
I
used
mean, use it
there?
for a different purpose now, yes, but
Yeah.
it's still good.
I think
Like
so.
you-
Like,
It's
I
back to
think
where it's only good on fist to cold builds, but for those, it's really, really good.
Maybe if you're comparing
This
it,
was
if you're
before.
comparing it directly to like Progenesis, it's probably not as but it's also like quite. I feel like it's semi-common. You know, like you would still use it. It still mitigates a decent chunk of damage. It's just different.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Like maybe for like application like Aziri, like Fear and stuff
Yeah.
like that, or like some kind of shifts.
All it
Yeah,
has to do is
you're
save your
probably right.
life one time, and that's worth it. You know. I
But
think
it's
Eternal
still a
Damnation.
Sapphire flask, right? So you can use
Yeah.
it like 3 times, I think. It has
Oh,
like
sure.
barely any charges. I think it's still a great flask to use. But
Okay.
you need to make use of the offensive part, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't just use it for the defensive part only now. But if it gives you extra cold, if you're using a fist build, it's so much damage and good defense. I think I like it.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously its value is gonna go down to like 1C because it's gonna be a lot more niche now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
Eternal Damnation.
Yeah, I gotta get fucked.
That was a bit of a roller coaster this week.
Well,
People went from,
honestly,
like-
if you thought that was gonna work, I think you're a little goofy. That's like to
I
me
don't
that
know
was an obvious one.
why they had such a bad wording in the first place. Like
Yeah,
the wording was you cannot gain endurance charges, right? Did they just forget that roller cache exists? Or what?
I don't know. Yeah,
Weird.
the surrender one's also a weird wording because like I don't know if I'm misreading this, but it says it no longer grants level 30 reckoning because that's been replaced with crushing fist, the retaliation skill. That
Valhalla
says
or something.
that says existing versions of this unique will now grant it. But does that also mean further versions will drop with level 30 crushing fist, or is that because it doesn't say that?
Wait, you're right. It's a weird wording, but it should give crushing fist instead, surely.
Or will it just have
But
nothing?
anyway, who's gonna use that anyway, dude? Who's gonna use No, nobody's gonna use.
I mean,
that
if
part
I
of the
had one, I would use it. But the problem is, it's worse than a rare, that has the same unique type of role. But it's like
I know a person that will use it, but that person plays Ruthless.
it's also hard to get. Like it's not as if I doubt you would luck into getting a surrender like by accident. Like getting blessings is not really an accidental occurrence, I feel like, anymore. Like I feel like you have to really try to get a blessing. Maybe I just had horrendous
Surrender
luck.
is really hard to get as a unique, so it's
like you might get the base shield to
economic.
drop on a map, but then that doesn't. You're still missing the blessing, so I don't know. Anyway, taming was funny. That was in the FAQ post. They were like with the Warden stacking frenzy thing. So it's like, oh, this gives 2,000% damage. They're like, no, it does not. Like you're not gonna get each shock is not gonna be 40% increased or whatever. Like
Yeah.
all that goofy stuff. Yeah. And then item changes, the quality stuff we've talked about. Non-gem items that generate the random quality can generate up to 30. This is why, like on your item filters, if you don't have it set or you're using someone else's, whatever, just make sure that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I like this whole idea, right? Like, you're basically going to be hunting for high quality bases to drop, and then you're like, oh shit, a 30 quality spine bow drop, time to make a bow character? Or how's that going to work?
And then you see that it's 85, not 86, and you cry, you know? It's like, there's like a lot of qualifiers, it seems like, to make an item. I like that in general. My only complaint with this is, this seems a little bit goofy, considering the League mechanic isn't an item crafting mechanic. It's a mechanic that generates items and then smashes items together, like using the thing. Like if you get a 30% quality item and then you recombinate it, what happens to the quality? And then also, like, if I'm gambling off of the new vendor and I get something great, well, that's, if that doesn't have 30 quality, am I sad? Like, I just kind of, it feels a bit goofy because there's no way to get 30% quality aside from a drop now, right? Or can you use Einhar still?
No,
to do
not
that?
at all, I think.
No,
Einhar,
you have
no
to drop
back,
it from the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then that's like...
Not even the corrupted, like, whetstones work.
No, that's a bit goofy, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like...
The only way to get more than 20 is finding it, yeah.
Yeah, it just seems strange when there's all these things that are introduced in the game or currently exist that are item creation, but not item refinement. So it's like, I can't, I could use an essence on this, or fossil, but...
It's kind of a cool nerf to these things, right? Like, Necropolis would have been way worse if this was last league already, because then they kind of capped at 20 quality, those items, right?
I wonder what happens with...
ethically would have 30.
What about ROG? Is ROG going to give random quality now? Because they're going to be able to go artificially to 30?
Who knows?
That's,
Who even knows if ROG can give us the new base tabs? Maybe ROG is just hot garbage now.
Yeah, that's a real question. So, like, they've done this before where they've, like, introduced a new thing that should have a tag, and then old vendors don't get it. Like, well, they'll introduce for example, the Divination card, it gives you a Dodri item, but then, like, they forgot to add Dodri's tongue. So I'm curious if all these vendors that have base types aren't offering
we don't even know if the base types are supposed to be common, right? Maybe they're supposed to be special things that you get from, like, a tier 17 map only, or, like, from a boss only or something, right?
But if the gap is large enough, then that makes, like, every single item creation mechanic now literally just like a stopgap. It's no longer like, oh, I got my BIS weapon from ROG. It's like, oh, I've got a good weapon from ROG, and now I could go farm a drop from a 17 and then progressively craft it, which I think that's really cool, and that kind of makes sense and, like, fits the progression narrative of a character. Like, in a way, I feel like a mechanic that's just making an item probably shouldn't just shit out a best in slot. Which ROG can just do that, like, right as of right now. Like, he could just, especially triple LA things, he could just poop out a bow that's, like, pretty insane. So it's kind of cool if that's like, yeah, that's good bow, but it's not like a mega spine bow that only drops from 17s and requires, level 90 character to equip. Like, that sort of stuff I'd like to see.
I think maybe hot take, maybe not hot take, but I think they intentionally not gonna add those bases to ROG, for example, and some of those mechanics. They want us to find those things from the
lukewarm take.
Maybe lukewarm.
I agree, though. I mean, I think that makes sense with the progress. Like, you should be getting the best stuff from doing the best maps. Like, that should be where. But, like, the ironic part is, say, like, they introduce, like, there's a new level 85 requirement body armor. And it's, BIS base, whatever. But if I could roll it and it still rolls tier 14 life, that's kind of goofy. Like, I feel like they should have, like, if there's mod tier waiting on them, that makes sense. But just to have it, so, we got our best in slot. Now I have to roll life, and I have to roll life and hope it goes tier 1 and not down to +6 life, like, because that can happen. Like, having the floor on the rolls, I think, would make a lot more sense for those sort of things. Kind of like we had in Necropolis.
I'm still hung up on the quality only being droppable. Like
Yeah.
what kind of ramification that has. Like say you want to craft your new trickster chest where quality is really important, right? You're gonna have to just kind of find that base first, right? If you're
Yep.
SSF. It's gonna feel pretty
Yep.
bad to craft on a 20 quality chest. But it could be really cool for trade where you just whenever you're mapping, you might just luck into like the new best
A
evasion base
99
type with 30
percentile, top roll,
yeah,
30%.
perfect. Yeah, exactly. And then 30 quality, or you might find like a 30 quality spine bow, right? And that's just money right there because that's great.
Do you know what it kind of
I think
reminds me of?
that's-
Like
that's pretty much what it is.
It's like fucking
right?
CS:GO knives. This is like getting a drop and like checking for the float and like oh
You're getting a
man.
factory new spine bow drop. Yeah, level 86.
Spine bow, 30 quality, top rolled flat. You know, that's like I like that, to be honest. I kind of like the value being on the base. It's like it's making it so.
I think I would love
you know.
this in trade, but I think I will hate it in SSF.
I think you'll hate it for maybe your first character, but after you start just getting a nice little stockpile of 30 quality
It's just
high roll
depends.
bases.
If you don't
Depends
plan
how
ahead, you're
rare
gonna
it is,
hate it, right?
If you don't, but
could
that,
say-
I think that applies to PoE in general, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
But you know,
I
if
mean,
I suddenly decide I want to play like a bow character now, and I didn't show bows in my filter for the last 2 weeks, I don't have a 30 quality spine bow lying around, and I'm gonna hate crafting on a 20 quality base.
but
when I
that's
lose
your
10%
fault
more
for
damage,
hiding
right?
loot, though. That's the
Exactly.
filter is always your
You have to
responsibility.
just plan ahead all your builds
I
basically
mean,
now.
the thing is, man, you can filter for quality bases, so like that's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
You'll-
I think I
it
Yeah,
will
I
pop
guess you
up every
always want
time
to
it
show them
drops.
all and hoard them, right? Like you want to
Yeah,
hoard everything
exactly.
just in case.
I mean, you have enough tabs after Necropolis League, so everyone has. You know,
True.
so
I'll just use
we can hoard
prop
everything.
step number 70 to 82 for those types. Yep.
Yeah, you could. So I have it on my filter showing like base defense percentiles greater than or equal to 90 that are quality 30. So any 30 quality item that drops with a base percentile, and you could just add like the big
Yeah, I
chunk
mean,
of tier
what
ones.
you're showing there, that's broken up like once per million years, right? Perfect percentile and 30 quality. You probably want to show even like 25 plus already, and maybe even like non-perfect quality because sacred orbs exists, right?
I'm not
Yeah,
Or
settling.
weapons.
I don't settle.
You need
There's
to
no
show a lot
settling.
more than that.
I refuse.
I mean,
If
with your
it's-
filter, you probably find nothing ever.
If it's not bis, I don't want it. Only the highest
Yeah,
Why
You're
are
quality.
you
gonna hoard
playing
a lot
Blood
more.
then?
Yeah, I'm
You
playing.
might even show like everything above 20 quality from the good bases like Spinebow or like I guess Valex is not the right one. What is the best X? I don't even know.
Yeah, I think like 26 quality plus already on like a Sadist
Jobber
vibe is already
Jabber.
like huge, honestly.
Jobber Jabber.
Well, not Sadist Cup, but the new one.
The new
sorry,
So you
Sadist
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
get the new
Yeah, the
base
new
type, which
Sadist
is maybe
Guard,
rare,
3
and
tiers
get it with
higher
good sacred
than
orb
Sadist
roll
Guard
and good
currently.
roll.
So whatever that's going to be. But yeah, that'll be a whole thing. I'm curious to see the micro market. You know what we got going on there.
And then you might need multiple of those bases because you recombinate and destroy some of them.
Exactly. Yep. It's gonna be an adventure to say the least. What do you guys think of the opulent fossil? So the opulent fossil grants more drops and more drop modifiers and no tagless modifiers.
Does that mean more rarity, right?
I believe it's just things that have no tag, which there's not many of, but like rarity is one of them. Yeah.
It says no tagless mod.
No, yeah, so that
think it-
filters out rarity.
I
Sorry,
think they
you're
added
right.
a new tag called drop modifiers, is what I'm interpreting here. And
Yeah, that's
it's like
which is
magic fund
rarity.
modifiers, basically.
Well, there's
Has
only
to be
a rarity.
rarity.
So, yeah.
So this fossil gives you rarity more often, and you can't get stuff like suppression or a stun recovery that don't have tags.
That's actually pretty OP, honestly, for blocking for fossils. Like,
It could
actually
be
a really
interesting,
good
yeah.
fossil.
Even for like maybe some.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna block, but you're always gonna roll rarity then, right?
Well, so think about it like this. This might be applicable for cluster jewel crafting also, depending on if you're trying to block certain types of
true.
technologies.
You
I
might
don't, I
just
don't
like
know
chest
what's
pieces
there.
even.
Yeah,
But I'm saying, you know, there's some things that are like terrible to roll on clusters, and this could, I don't know, this could be something for that.
Yeah, that pretty much like cuts mods from like chess piece, right? Like stun and block recovery.
Yep.
right?
Yeah. So for certain things. Yeah. And also, you could think about it from the perspective of not as much adding something you want, but more just removing something you don't want. And if you get a rarity suffix, it's irrelevant because you just wipe it off anyway. So it could be like trying to like this in conjunction with like more life and more armor or something, more defenses. It could maybe even just be so there's like all you could roll for prefixes are going to be like life armor. And then it might hit rarity, but it's probably going to be a suffix or whatever, and that's fine because you'll just clear it off. So it's like, this just seems like a more of a qualifier for hitting maybe like 2 or 3 fossil mods you want, and then going from that point on, because just removing tagless stuff is kind of powerful. Could be.
It could be pretty good to hit like a mod just for fracturing, right? Where you find that you hit rarity because you just want to hit like a really rare mod.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't even care to hit rolls rarity at the same time because it's just a fractured base anyway, or a recombinator base maybe.
Yeah. Speaking of the body bases, the Essence of Horror now is kind of interesting. It gives 10% reduced extra damage from crits per endurance instead of the 15 physical. So
wow.
On a
it's
jug.
Just immune to crit, yeah.
That makes you immune to crit. Which
it's probably
is
a prefix though, right?
Oh, I assumed. No, Fizz was a suffix, wasn't it, before? Fizz taken as?
No, the taken as was a prefix.
So I assume it's going to be a prefix.
Usually, reduced crit on shields and stuff is a suffix usually. So
could be.
It's probably a suffix. If it's a suffix, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Because then you can still get your
really
5k
nice,
yeah.
I mean,
you can even
every build
toss
is
that
an endurance chart
yeah,
build,
true.
right?
You're just going to be frenzy stacking replica badge and endgame on a lot of builds, right?
Yeah. Sweet replica badge. Cool enough.
Oh, dude, we're going to have to heist replica badge. It took me more than 1,000 blueprints to find it the first time.
Yikes. I found 3 in 100, so sucks to suck.
Imagine like heisting for a replica badge, you don't find it, and you find a simplex amulet.
Yeah.
And then you can't roll quant on it.
I've been there.
Yeah.
But you can make a +8 this league though, right? If you get lucky enough to find that Calandra thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that Calandra is back. But that's going to be kind of sick too, right?
It's back in the most minimal form, which is honestly the thing that matters the most.
Only the
right?
good part is
yeah,
back.
that's what I'm saying. It's just like you get the mist to reflect things, or it just so the
I
option
think that reflect mist is going to be omega rare, right? Let's like
if it was like last time, then
Chorus
yeah,
lock rarity or something.
It's like 1/5 the mirror rarity. Cool. Yeah, what are you gonna do?
But like even the random reflected jewelry, if that's common enough and shows up every couple maps, I remember getting some pretty usable pieces from that in Calandra.
If you hit the right series of like dead stats for your build, you can get things like 180 life, 70 chaos rays on it, and it's like minus flat fire. Like okay,
especially rings, right? Like the flat to
rings
attacks on rings, I think the inverted one is basically irrelevant. It makes enemies deal like 10 extra damage or whatever.
The minus ES or mana if you don't care about those, or there's a lot of dead stats on rings effectively.
Like 200 life rings almost and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, 200 life. The crazy stuff, you get the life with like a recoup. Those recoups got so high in those rings. They're like 30% recoup and stuff. Just pretty juicy.
Yeah. Also, doesn't that mean the prototype is back? Minus 200 rest prototype? But I guess that might already be back with the Ventor changes, because you can have like minus lightning rest Ventors and efficiency on them at the same time.
Yeah. Could be cool. They buff smite as well, so like prototype smite builds are really strong before, even they might be better now.
Did you see there was an anointable note that gives 80% increased AoE for aura skills, which includes smite?
I did see that, yes, which is very funny.
Mega AoE smite.
The hugest smites. What else is here? All the wand changes.
All the wand buffs, yeah. Claws also got a lot of base crit.
Claw staffs did too. Scepter. Pretty much all those.
It's kind of odd to me that they're buffing exactly claws, right? Isn't that the best melee base type anywhere if you're playing something like Molten Strike, Lightning Strike?
Yeah.
It's pretty much has claws for years anyway. Claws. They should have buffed daggers some more, I feel like.
They did buff daggers.
Swords.
Pretty substantially.
They should have buffed scepters, dude. Nobody's ever using a scepter.
Scepters got buffed also, but the problem is that they didn't buff scepters. So it's funny because scepters went from 6 to 7 and daggers went from 6.5 to 8.5 for base crit. It's like a huge increase. But I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, also their staff. Is the staff the least used weapon type in the game? I feel like
not anymore with eventuality, right?
Well, aside from that, I mean, like, who's using staves? Like for casters, especially, like rare staves.
Shockwave, Cyclone, or just caster stuff. So.
Caster staff. I don't know. It just feels like staff. Two-hand caster just felt like it's been so far behind.
I mean, the Katarina stuff can be insane for Chaos Start.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, like a rare. That's all unique staves.
Yeah. Rare staves I haven't used since we had the +5s in like Harvest League.
They did increase the block rates in some of them pretty substantially. Like Imperial staves have 25 spell block now, which is a lot, but you're still using a staff. I don't know. Div card changes. So the rebirth and renewal div cards have been re-enabled and now give horn scarabs. It's kind of cool. So horn scarabs there. There's one for 4 veiled scarabs and the more enough card. Long watch giving 4th vow is actually pretty sick. It's not that rare of a unique. I think it's tier 3. maybe even 4. But at least there's a targetable way to farm a 4th foul, because that's definitely something you want. 4th foul is a very good unique. And
Yeah, it's always cool to have diff cards to be able to farm things.
Yeah.
I feel like always nice.
the real one that's interesting is the friendship card gives all's uprisings, which is that's the amulet, right? Or am I going
So
crazy?
where
Yeah.
was the friendship card dropping? Actually, it was from Nico missions or something like
Yes,
that,
it was
right?
Nico. Yeah.
No, it was sorry, from Argus.
Isn't it from Argus?
Oh,
Yeah,
Argus.
and it
From
gave
Argus,
you Nico
yeah.
That's kind of
Scarabs or
crazy.
something.
I mean, if you could not, I don't know what the fuck the scenario is, but if we could like,
Wait, do you
lab,
think it's
lab
drops from
reset.
Argus?
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Argus farm for fucking alls?
I mean,
Merc
literally,
Club?
can you
Merc
imagine?
Club buffed?
Oh my god, Merc Lab for I was already doing like 1,000 Merc Labs in the past 2 weeks, just looking for grand spectrums, resetting constantly, and this is like I'm just gonna go back and just do it for All's Uprisings. Because All's Uprising is pretty good, and you'd be a
I was actually using All's Uprising for the first time on my bow character this league, which was pretty wild, honestly.
It's good. Bows I feel like are a little bit weird because I feel like Hyre's is really strong amulet, like early on especially for bows.
Yeah, Hyra is better, but
It's like so much
but,
juice.
With my like setup, it was actually made sense for the first time, which is
I do feel like
funny to me.
All's actually it's kind of worse now in a weird way because hatred's worse and it kind of grace and determination are worse. You have to like hit a good one, like a pride one would be good, or even like purity of
Since when
elements
this
would be nice.
amulet, can we talk about how bad Delve is gonna be without Adorned being like sought after? Perfect fossil gone.
Yeah, no more. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's nothing in Delve. Like literally nothing.
Also,
Like,
no taking ass helmets anymore, right?
yeah, the helmets
no,
are gone. Like
no, yeah, I don't.
everything that was cool about Delve, like it's fucking removed.
What are you even delving for at this point?
For minion ones, Manni. Don't you know? You should have known
Aggression
that.
minion
Obvious.
ones, and also your golem jewels. You have to get them from Delve. No, like the biggest reasons I previously had to go to
Fucking-
Delve was the Fizz taken S crafts, right? Very specific fossils, which honestly have gotten less important over time. The biggest one was Adorned, and then if I wanted to get a Red Blade banner, it was like one of the better ways to get one. Almost all of those are gone now. I don't like so to do Delve. It feels like I don't know. Yeah, the +1
Delve is
Spectre body,
so-
but I don't know.
I mean,
Why does your scroll?
okay, I have a redeeming quality for Delve. You just farm bosses for precursors. You know, the endurance charge precursor is giga buffed,
Yeah.
the same as frenzy one. So precursors are actually super strong now.
For sure.
So, like,
Yeah, that's true.
charge
Frenzy
stacking.
and endurance specifically, those two, right?
Yeah,
For
exactly.
endurance and
That's a lot of
replica
effort
bash.
though to get a triple red precursor and it turned out to be shit or
And that-
something.
yeah,
Or
that's like saying, you know, this one Watcher's Eye mod is better. You're still never going to see exactly that.
yeah. I think
It's
I'd
just
rather
terrain.
just farm Argus over here. Let's do a couple more things and we'll wrap up here. So Keurig mods were adjusted.
So we're skipping
great.
Ruthless changes?
Oh yeah, I think I just might. Yeah. I think I just might.
Okay.
What do you want to talk about in Ruthless?
Oh, no, it's fine.
Oh
They-
wow.
The Harbinger stuff, I hate this. Harbinger got 2 big nerfs, right? We
Yep.
didn't mention the other one, but the Harbinger Scarab, they gave you rarer shards, just doesn't do that anymore.
Yep.
Oh, it's just gone, right? So no more rarer shards, and then only 2 Harbingers out of 4 per map from the Scarab, or
Yeah.
from the craft. And then no more fracturing with Fleek Mechanic, right?
Mhm.
So fracture farming, it's going to be pretty despair.
I absolutely hated that Scarab anyway. I was not using it even, so like I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it didn't exist.
I like that Abyss is cheaper. Breach is a little bit better.
You didn't like the Scarab? The Scarab was so broken.
I hated it. Like the one type Scarab rare shards. I absolutely despised it. Like
I mean, it had
It-
like
it made-
mega luck, right? It just made it super luck dependent, but on average, you get so much more.
yeah, I know that you get a bit like more on average, but like for me, it feels so ass that I
I mean,
just
with how
cannot
much
take
you
it.
farm, I feel like it's a huge buff for you, right? Because
Yeah,
you will
I know.
always-
Like it's
average
just
out.
Not for. I hate it.
I thought you would have loved it.
No, I despise it completely.
What
So-
are you guys' thoughts on the bandit change? Are you going to be picking any of the 3? Are you still taking the passive?
I'll take a Lyra 99% of the time.
Are you going to spec out of it though?
Maybe. I mean, I'm going to keep it as long as I need the res, right? And if I ever
Yeah.
see, oh, my character's too much res, time to get a skill point.
Okay, yeah.
But I might even go back to it at some point. I could see myself like min-maxing in endgame, and suddenly I'm like 5 res off here, and then I just take it again. I
I feel
could,
like it really depends
it's-
on what kind of build you're playing. So if you have like a lot of rares, I feel like it's pretty easy to get overcapped.
I mean, just think of the passive terrain. If there was a one point you could click for 15 all res, I feel like I would click that very often.
I feel like that's kind of the same for all three, though. Like, in a way. Like, if you had 1 point to put in for 8% movement, maybe I
Not
wouldn't.
max
but...
life though. Max life is garbage.
You think
Like, you
it's
barely
bad?
click like 50 mastery. The 40 max life is like, you'd never choose that. That's trash.
I think I'm most on the fence about the life, but the res I might just take like week 1 and then probably just spec out of it. But I kind of just want the passive because I kind of want to reach what I want to reach faster, you know? That same way. I feel like there's no wrong choice, but I feel like the wrong choice is movement speed.
No,
The wrong choice is Oak. Yeah, that's the wrong choice.
I feel like movement speed, if you're under 100 or over like 250, feels shitty. Like, as long as I'm in that sweet spot, I'm happy. I don't like moving too fast, but I don't want to be slow. I think I'm just going to take the passive always. What would they do? What would they have to do to these to make them... Honestly, the entire helping system is just kind of antiquated. Like, what is the... Like, the point of this is just so old.
Oak should be 50, and then it will be fine. But, like, Oak being 40 is bad. Like, if they made Oak 50, then I think it would have been good.
And then they make Creighton 10.
The thing about Oak is that almost always in your tree, you have access to an extra 5% life node, right, that you haven't picked yet. And that is almost equivalent to 40 life, so why bother with Oak when... If you want like that one extra point of life, you can just take a 5% always.
Yeah.
But you can oftentimes not take a quick 15% all res, right?
If the Creighton thing was 5% action speed, would that be too busted?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you're probably pretty accurate.
Then it would be a mandatory.
So you think it's almost healthy then at the moment because there's like actually a choice to be made here?
I think this is great, yeah. I think all 4 options are going to be used. I think this is great balance.
Yeah.
I just think that Oak needs to be better, yeah. But like other than that, like I think it's very good, yeah. I agree.
I think I'm still taking the passive. I can't be stopped. That's fair. What else? The Both health bars, that's just good. Waypoints unlocking, just good. Reserve on death, just good. Pickup rage.
Oh, we didn't mention the reserve on death thing. Like this is huge as well. Like I completely forget about it.
All
you
six
don't have to
of
make us or us.
all these. I mean, I'm not dying. You dying, Manny?
No.
All right, Legi, you're dying?
Yes, I'm playing a Deadeye. What do you mean?
Oh my god, it's in your name. He admits it. Yeah, I mean, quality of life good. Are any of these changes new to video games? No, they've all been, you know, keeping shit on death, static life bars. I think
it's gonna be a nerf for me because I'm gonna just instinctively turn off my aura.
100%. That's like my first thought was I'm gonna muscle memory the shit out of all my auras, and I'm gonna be like, I'm just gonna be sad. But once you could click them off, right? Like once you put them on, you can take them off your bar.
Yeah, but then when you change an item, you have to like put them back on, right?
Yeah. Well, are you changing items faster than you're dying? I guess that's the real question.
No,
I mean, especially if you have auras in like weapons, then you like look for the like leveling gems.
Ew.
And yeah.
Auras and weapons.
I try to not have that, but like sometimes there is no way to not do it. But like yeah, it's really.
Did you see the very first bug fix there? That was actually a big one.
Vendors could unfracture items. I didn't have never seen it happen.
That one.
Yeah, so when you miss the fracture on your helical ring, it's just you have to farm a new one back to another 100 hours of heist.
I mean, it's not a bug. We know that, Manni. That's not a bug. It's literally not a bug. And it was like, yeah, that was bugged. And they said, okay, No, what I mean is like they intentionally removed it and called it a bug.
Yeah, okay. It's a feature.
Like actually, that's what I think it is. It's like, oh, we don't like this, so we're gonna call it a bug. And that's
It's a feature. Duh. They also, in the new patch note update from today, they gave Death's Oath 25% more base damage.
It's good.
I think
that's what it did to all Chaos Dot, right? Every single Chaos Dot got 20% more, I think.
I think Death's Oath,
just for
unironically, because also the change to the ritual helmet giving 4% more max res, like this could be okay. I think it could be okay. Not as like a real build, but like as a shitty low tier farming meme build. I don't think even 25% more dot is going to.
I'm not a fan.
What was the mastery? The mastery said more AoE for aura effects. Is that what was it?
For aura skills.
Do you think does this count as an aura skill? Death aura?
No.
I don't think it's a skill gem, so it probably doesn't count. Like, it doesn't have a gem that has the tag on it, right? So I don't think it would be effective.
Man, if
But that would be sick otherwise.
If that worked, my god, it would actually maybe be usable. Streams could happen. All right. Well, why don't we just quickly talk about what build we're starting with, then we'll wrap it up there because we've been here for 4 fucking hours, and we could probably go another 4 hours, but we all have lives to live. So, chat's saying Death Aura is an aura. I'm not sure if that's real or not, but we'll see. All right.
Chat thinks a lot of things.
Yeah.
Not a lot of things are right.
It's true. You want to go first, Legi? And talk about what build you're starting with?
Which Deadeye is he starting with?
Yeah, which of the 9 Deadeyes?
I'm actually not starting a Deadeye for once. I know that's crazy, you know? I'm not starting a Lightning Arrow Deadeye for the 17,000th time in a row. But I'm doing Hyro Archmage. Like, I know that you might say, oh, this idiot is playing a meta build again. I mean, kinda, but I really wanted to play Archmage
Yeah, it's cool.
last league, right? I was like, oh, I want to try it out. The crafting is cool. But I didn't end up doing it, and now Archmage is still strong, and I want to do some bossing early. So it's perfect for me.
I think all it
It's
lost
fun.
is
It's
like
super fun.
a little bit of early damage, like a little bit, but that's it, right? And then it has maybe a mana issue with the inspiration thing.
It got nerfed by inspiration quite a bit. It's a substantial nerf, I would say. But what I'm planning to counteract it with is Watcher's Eye mod that replenishes mana. So like you lose a bit of MOM. That's what we were going for, but like gonna get more regions.
So you're gonna Are you gonna be sitting in destructive play, prison farming Elder Guardians for like forever, or how do you find that watches?
I mean, yeah, probably. Like I'm gonna do destructive play really early, and I kind of want to do a lot of bossing early, and like I want to find Awaken Fork as soon as possible. That's my plan because I want to play it.
Then go Wander.
Yeah, then I wonder exactly.
Yeah, that sounds sick.
That's a plan.
Buffed KB with Awakened Fork. Oh my god. I want to play that too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna do destructive play also. I just kind of want to get some Awakened gems and like let them guide me. You know, if I hit like Echo, I'll do something with that. If I hit multi, we'll do something with that. Should be fun.
You could even consider the strat in Silo.
That's what
I'm doing the Silo strat. Yeah,
that's exactly what I was
honestly.
gonna do.
Thank you, Manni, for teaching me that because I didn't know. I mean,
could I move the apothecaries out?
Yeah. So you can you can swap the cards to Silo and then just run Silo, whatever. Then you just kill the little 3 shitters and then end it.
So,
that's also
quite excited for
if you were you doing that with the wisps on? Because I was doing it with the wisps on also, and it felt nice. The keystone. Wisp keystone.
I wasn't doing it myself before, but like I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, definitely do with the keystones though, because I've seen some people weren't running those, and that felt like a substantial difference to me. Like to have it so all 3 bosses you killed were also triple wisps or whatever. Like, I mean, it's obviously more harder to kill them, but yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think about that honestly, so I'll definitely try.
Yep. Manni, what are you playing?
I'm gonna play Power Staff and Locus Miner.
Wow.
On a Trickster.
Wow.
I tried it already. I'm actually, when I'm done with this podcast, I'm gonna keep like doing the test run. I'm in maps, just hit maps right now. It's just really fun. It hits all the sweet spots for me.
Yeah.
It's fun to play. Clear everywhere, you throw mines and projectiles go everywhere. Has some crazy cool interactions with like Fury Valve.
I love Fury Valve. It's so fun.
Yeah, there's just projectiles everywhere, and then potentially returning projectiles craftable on our wands, maybe.
Can you imagine?
Epic if that's
Can you imagine Power Siphon with Fury Valve and returning proj? Lordy.
Yeah. I'll play Trade League for the first time this time too. That's why I chose the build because
then you could fill the gaps. Yeah.
I don't have to do any bossing or anything where the build might be weak. I'm just gonna run some nice outdoor maps and enjoy the clear for a week or 2, and then I'll join you guys in SSF late.
Has automation been changed at all with how it interacts with detonating mines? Okay, because I know they changed called arms. I wasn't sure if they touched automation. Very cool. And then I said I'm playing Bleed Glad, Perforate, and I think I've fully convinced myself to go Blood Magic, but. Yeah, Perforate.
Wait, so you're doing aggravated bleeds then, I assume, right?
No. Perforate attacks so many times a second that you're definitely going to outperform with Crimson Dance.
So what's your last Ascendancy then? Oh, that's what you meant, the ramping one probably, right?
Yeah. So I have to understand how the wording is, like, because it's. I mean, no matter what, you're going to go. I think I'm going to go Lucky Block and then that. So you can't go aggravated if you go bleed. And then it depends on the retaliation thing. So like retaliation, if they're really good, then I'm just dropping perforate and picking up the retaliation stuff. You know, and then or if not, then I just pick up the axe thing and just take 15% more damage always. And that's fine too. But that just depends on the bottom one. So, but overall, just playing a basic bleed block glad. It's nothing fancy there. But I could, you know, if perforate's absolutely dog shit, I can just put on ground slam or lacerate or whatever. It's kind of whatever. And then I've got my Atlas tree. Yeah.
I think bleed is kind of big loser of this melee reorg. I think a lot of people are excited about bleed, but it's still like not insane or like not. It's like good at best.
My concern's the flat damage. So like they lost a lot of flat damage in all the attack things. And I don't know how it's really going to feel with that. That's why doing things like Bloodthirst, I think, might be better feeling. And like, so you get more flat, but I don't...
I'm pretty sure Bleed is really good now. I mean, the thing is, they buffed the melee skills to compensate for the lack of War Chief, right? And Protector.
Yeah.
But those didn't affect Bleed in the first place. So
No.
Bleed just got a buff without needing it, basically, right? Well, it needed it, but it didn't...
Yeah. And I just...
You got the buff and the overcompensation, basically.
And then for the aggravated is really cool. So like if you're doing any build that's not attacking, you know, 10 times a second, you probably would pick up an amount of aggravated because there's no reason not to, I think. Like if you're doing a slam build, aggravated makes a lot of sense because it's applying the aggravated before the hit. That's the big thing people I feel like are missing. There's a lot of aggravate on hit on tree, and you have to then hit. That first hit doesn't get aggravated. It's the second one that applies that gets aggravated. But if you have the jagged technique, then your big slam always is aggravated, that's the juice. But I just don't know if slams are going to feel like it, or I'm going to want to war cry. So we fine. I'll be messing around. I'm going to be sitting in lab until I farm the fucking thing anyway. So
I'm just not a leader in bleed. That's all.
Speaking of lab, I'm going to be playing a league starter for the first time in a long time that doesn't need to farm Merc Lab. I'm so happy about this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
My build doesn't need a gem. I'm going to be free of Merc Lab.
That's
I'll
true.
just go straight to maps.
I will not.
I'm not going to be free of Merc Lab.
No. I'll be locked down as well.
Me neither.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to do Merc. I'm just going to set it normal. I've grown affinity for normal lab, especially I found out like all the grand spectrums just pretty much drop everywhere. Like that was weird, you know. So there's like, I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll see. It'll be fun.
You should do Merc Club, man. Like honestly, like I did one of my runs, Lighty, and like you literally gear so well in Merc Club.
I know what
like,
you're saying, yeah, because of that. My fear is that like I had this really annoying scenario that occurred with Detonate Dead, which is anytime you're trying to get a trans gem that has multiple outcomes, it's always frustrating because you're always going to get the wrong one. Like Perforate has 3 different types. So I'm going to just be like not hitting bloodshed. I get the guaranteed I'm going to want to fucking kill myself.
The thing is like, it's just an additional thing. Like in normal lab, that craft cannot spawn. So you might as well, you know, 1 and 3 it.
You're not wrong. And then like you're saying on the way, it's kind of like when I was farming like the Act 6 heist looping from the beginning, like, but I gotta do it for like an hour or whatever, or 2 hours. And then by the time I'm done, I just have so much good rare gear that I'm just carried till maps. So it'll kind of be the same thing where I'll probably just end up with so much free shit from the lab chest.
Yeah,
that by the time I'm done, I'll just be like set up.
Literally, I'll say this: like I got all the gear in lab in my like practice run, and I didn't replace a single item until T16.
And I think more to your point, because I think you're just convincing me now. More to the point, playing a max block gladiator is like the most labby lab build ever. Like I could just park on a Zaro and right click, and that's kind of what I want to do. So you've convinced me. I'll do Merc Lab. You
can also get your quality, right? Like if you don't get the convert to other gem of the same name, you can just get quality instead, and then you're gonna have all your quality gems maxed out.
So you're saying like fish for that until you finish your quality. Yeah. Because obviously you can't change your mind after you've already checked. Yeah. That's fair. All right.
Merc Lab, good.
Yeah. Any other plans you guys have? Or I think we've set it on. We'll reconvene in a few weeks and we'll discuss our experiences with Easy, especially because we'll have to play again. I think we're all good.
I'm looking forward to the league. That's for sure.
I'm just so excited to play Puff of Exile. I haven't been that excited to play in a while. I mean, Necropolis, you know, even if I played so much in Necropolis,
it's gonna be
Necropolis bad.
Necropolis bad, but patch. I enjoyed the patch. I just didn't like the 17 stuff. But hopefully this makes 17s feel better to a degree. So
they're gonna be so much easier. Don't worry. Like less damage, no Necropolis mods.
The more we talk about, the more I'm like, man, we were doing 17s about 500% harder than they normally.
Yeah, exactly, right.
It should be exciting. Any games you guys are going to play the next 2 or 3 days before League launch to like detox, or you actually
Half
just
of building.
like? All right, cool. So nothing.
I already had my stint of different game. I played Mechabellum, like a mech auto battler. It's super fun. Like
Nice.
I can
Oh,
definitely.
I've seen that.
What is it
recommend
called?
It's pretty.
What's the game called?
It's Mechabellum.
All right, just type it in the chat because your fucking accent, I can't hear what the hell you're saying. You're speaking
Music.
in ancient Polish to me.
What the hell is my Discord?
I was doing the Elden Ring DLC. That was amazing. And now I might do another run before League start. We'll know. We'll see. I kind of want to speed run my way through the DLC again. But
Yeah, it's just you know, you
I'll check it out tonight.
buy
Yeah.
dudes and
I'm down to buy some dudes.
fight.
Yeah,
and fight against other dudes. It's super fun.
Buying dudes and fighting dudes. This sounds great.
Yep,
Dudes fighting,
that's
dude
how I'm
buying.
gonna describe a game after 4-hour podcast. Buy
fair.
dudes, fight dudes.
Alrighty then, we're wrapping up. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Manny's going to
Yep,
be
that's great.
streaming, and I'm going to just raid him from this. I think you're live right now, right? So I could just do
Yeah,
that.
I've been sitting here live for 4 hours
Okay.
already.
Wow. So I should be able to do that, and then
Do some Power 7 gaming next.
we'll where the fuck is your name? What is this? Manny. Search by raid. And then we're going to be that's it. Yeah, that's the end of the day. I like people think I'm insulting Legi, even though they don't understand that he's actively trying to kill me
Nah.
every day.
Nah, he's just insulting himself that he cannot.
I don't have
you know,
the gentle
understand
ears. Yeah.
English.
English hard.
accent.
Real hard. All right. Where the fuck's the raid button? There it is. Okay, so this will be up on YouTube later. Good luck to both you boys on League launch. And
Likewise.
if you have any questions, feel
Yep.
free to hit
Good
all
talk.
of us up about stuff because, you know, we'll answer it and whatever. All right, have fun, everybody. I'm hitting raid.
So, thank you. See ya.
You're free.
Bye.
You're free to go. You're free to go.